I had a pen. You know, you got an extra pen.
I always drop them.
I had looked at it. I looked at the pen on my desk.
You want that one?
Yes, thank you.
It's the one thing I'm an aficionado.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call this town hearing to order. It's a Board of Finance hearing, so I'll just introduce ourselves. I'm Mike Anderson. I'm the chair. Dan Smith to my right is vice chair. Carl Johnston, Gary Nino, Sarah Nelson, Amy Friends, our secretary and an alternate. Lou Gendrella and Winona Burdine is also an alternate. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate to see such a good turnout. And I didn't do an agenda this year, and it wasn't because I don't feel like doing an agenda. I completely forgot to do an agenda, but that doesn't mean we can't go forward. We have the call of the hearing, and we're just going to go right into it. And I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen. Bob Carlson was the first selectman to come up and present the town budget, the government budget. We will have public comment after both presentations. So you will all have a chance to speak your minds. And with that being said, First Selectman Carlson.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Glad to see we're all here. And this is our my fourth budget presentation. Each one, hopefully they get a little bit better. But I'm pretty happy with what happened with this year's budget overall. I know we're not happy with every line item in it, but overall I think we've come up with a good, strong budget for the town moving forward. A couple of things I want you to know when you're looking at, so if you have this budget, you have this one, a couple of notes. For those that may not be familiar with how we do a budget. If the number starts with an A, it's revenue. If it starts with a B, it's an expense. If it starts with a C, it's capital. And if it starts with a D, it's redemption of debt. So you'll see that as you follow the budget. Also, you'll notice on this budget, there's a couple of numbers, percentages at the bottom of the bracket, and it says 3.77 percentage of increase with reductions. So of course, we get this budget with no reductions to start. This is actually budget number 6. We've looked at it 6 times, the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, and this is where we've ended up. Underneath that number, you'll see 2.04% budget increase without school maintenance. So I just want to let you know what that means. So up until now, in the past, the school budget carried the price of all the maintenance at the schools. This year, the Board of Selectmen decided that these are town buildings. We want to be responsible for help and be responsible for keeping these buildings up to snuff so they last as long as they possibly can last. And the town has decided that the selectmen decided to use a number of $100,000 that we're putting into the town budget that would normally be in the school budget. So if you took that $100,000 out, which has never been in our budget before, we'd only have a 2.04 increase. And the last thing I want to talk about is when I go through the budget presentation, you'll hear me use the words contractual obligation. And what that is what we're obligated by contract to pay our employees. And those negotiations, they happen every 3 years, and they're happening again this spring. We've already started negotiation with the town hall employees, and shortly after that, we'll be negotiating with the town highway department employees. 3 years ago, we put in a 2% increase across the board, not knowing what was going to happen during the negotiation. The negotiations ended up as being 2.75, 2.5, and 2.25 over the 3 years. So we under budgeted. This year, we decided as the board to put in a number of 3.0 budget increase. If the negotiating comes out under that, at least we're covered, we can back it out. But we're hopefully that we're closer than if we would have put in 2% again. So there's a 3% across the board increase on when we negotiate with the town employees in the highway department, it's already in this budget, so we don't have to go back and ask you for more money later. Okay, so you see that Suzanne, the admin finance officer, is put on the board here. My presentation on the budget, there's two quick presentations. One's on the budget itself and one's on the capital budget. You can turn the page if you'd like. Okay, so again, this is the cover sheet that you have on the budget. You'll see that the government operating budget is 3.77. You don't see that notation at the bottom on this one where it goes down to 2.04 if we didn't have that money in for the maintenance. The debt is typically the same number each year. So it's that's the debt is on the new school building, the renovated school building, and the emergency services building. And those that is a pretty stabilized number now going forward. The education budget, I'll have their chairman Stephanie Mastriani speak about that. And on the capital budget, you'll see there's an increase, which is 18.12% increase. It's $115,655 for a total change in our budget this year of $951,405 with a percentage increase of 4.09%. So what do we do? How do we come up with this budget? First thing we look at what's happened on the revenue side. So grand list increases. We have an increase of $643,661,000. We also have in short-term investments, it says $20,000, but that's only an increase. Last year, because our treasurers put money in CDs and we have short-term investments, the town last year made up $120,361. In the last 3 years, we've made $290,650. This is money that's already sitting in our account that we invested in CDs, and it's brought back rewards. So even though it says 20,000, that's only the increase of what we're projecting for next year because interest rates are now starting to come off a little bit. So that means CD amounts will come off. But we've almost $300,000 in 3 years. The tuition reimbursement, we bring students in from Voluntown and Preston that pay us tuition into our high school. The increase this year is $205,889. But more impressive is that the actual number of actual dollars brought in by this program is $510,065. So $500,000, almost equal to $1 million, is what we bring in by students coming to our school. And we haven't had to add any staff or additions on the building to do this. We're able to bring these students in. We have, I think, around 42 students coming in next year. When we planned this program back when I was on the Board of Ed, we always said if we can get 40 students, an average of 10 per year, that would give us about between $500,000 and $600,000 worth of income, which is like building 80 houses in town. Except we're not building 80 houses, so we don't have all those other services being used. So it's really a windfall for the town by doing this. Tipping fees are what we get money from contractors that pick up trash and bring it to the trash incinerators. We get paid back from that. And the CL and P upgrade for the power station. There's a power station down on 49 near Stop and Shop. You notice in the last 3 years, they did a giant renovation on that building. So we have an increase in taxes from Eversource of $124,280. Turn the page and we'll see, well, that's all good news. What's the bad news? So we had ECS funding, that's education course share funding, which is something that the town gets from the state, from Hartford, and they decreased our funding by $96,181. That's done with a formula. And because we are not a lower income town per se, excuse me, they put more money into the Bridgeports and the Staffords and Hartfords and so on, and less money into the fiscally responsible small towns like North Stonington. Additional veterans exemption. They changed the veterans exemption now where if you're 100% disabled, you can get a 100% exemption on your taxes. So that was a loss of $52,711. And motor vehicle tax formulas have changed. They used to be using like a blue book. Now we're using a MSRP from the date that the car or the vehicle was new. That resulted in a loss of $220,725. So that's the bad news, but overall, the good news is the town's revenue is $918,789 from last year, which is remarkable. I talked to some of our neighboring towns and they're nowhere, small towns like us, like Preston, Griswold, Valentine, they're nowhere near this number. So the town has really been trending in a great way. As you know, we have a new big EB building coming in down near the highway. We have another winery in construction on Winterchuck Hill Road. So the town is doing a lot of wonderful things to bring in additional revenue. We have new homes going up. And at the same time, it also seems to be happening where we want it to happen. We're having commercial happening near the highway. We're having farms happening in the farmland. And I can't tell you how excited I am to see, and as the selectmen are, and the town is trending in this positive way. We'll turn the page. So some things that we set for goals. Each year we try to set some goals as a board. The first thing we had to do after last year's budget was we had no finance department last year when we presented the budget. So I was presenting it by myself for the first time. A couple of hiccups, but for the most part, it worked out pretty well. But we have since restaffed our finance department with Suzanne Thero, who's our finance officer, and we have a new accounting journalist named Melissa Petersons, and they're doing a wonderful job. We just came through our audit, and the audit was, we passed with flying colors. We want to develop a long-term capital plan with our DPW, Northern Volunteer Fire Company and ambulance, which I'll be going over shortly. We wanted to create a purchasing policy, which we did, and we are holding people to obey the purchasing policy when we buy things for town. With the tax collector's help, we organized and ran a property tax sale for people who were way behind in their taxes. We sold the property and recouped that money, and now those properties are on the tax roll. And the last is we developed and applied for a steep grant, which we have not heard if we have got it yet, but we did apply for it. We have got them in the past. When we get a steep grant, it's a 20% match. So the steep grant we applied for is around $800,000 worth of work for the town. And if we get it, the town will have to pay about $200,000 of that. The rest of the money is $160,000. The rest of the money is coming from the state. So we've accomplished that since last year's budget. Let me turn it. So now we're going to get into the budget. And we have the long version, but I figured I'd give you a short version with this presentation. The first one is B1. You can follow this either on this sheet or in the budget itself. B1, Board of Selectmen budget. You see it's made up of many lines. We have an increase this year of $11,477.90. The main reason we have that is there's some contractual obligations, but also we put $2,000 into the additional $2,000 into grant writing. We want to write more grants so the town can get more free money. And also we put in some money for the, now that we have Suzanne doing HR, we never had a full-time person handling HR. There's some things that go with that. We have to do testing, medical testing, have to do background checks and so on. So we put in, I think it's $750 to cover that fee. Next, probate court went up $1,224. So what they're asking in Groton is not only do towns pay for a portion of having the probate judge, which is regional, we also have to pay for the office that the probate judge is in. Of the towns that this probate judge covers, we're the smallest when it comes to population, so we pay the least amount. Board of Finance, $1,182.80. This year, the Board of Finance has to put out an RFP for a new auditor. We had King & King as our auditor for the last 3 years. This is the year that they'll put out a new RFP and hopefully sign a contract with either King & King or another auditing company for the next 3 years. Assessor's office is mostly contractual. We have 2 people in the assessor's office. Tax collector is contractual. No increase in the attorney fees. I, as the first selectman, do not like to call the attorney every time I have a question. That has not always happened in the past, so we're not increasing our attorney fees because we don't have to. Actually, we gave some money back last year on the attorney fees. Annexation is something we typically talk about in executive session. That is money we pay for attorneys to watch what's going on with Indian affairs in town. You may or may not know, we have an ordinance in North Stoughton that says we must push back on annexation. The town has to fight annexation. And, but we have not. What happened was, in years past, when Nick Mullane was the first selectman, we used to put a lot of money into this, and then things kind of quieted down. Lately, they've started perking up again, and we've been had a shortfall on the attorney fees for watching this. So we're increasing that by $10,000 from $10,000 to $20,000. Town clerk is contractual. EDC, there's a decrease of $599.95. We do not have someone that was working there on a part-time basis to help them with coordination, so that we're able to drop that number down. The Recreation Commission is an increase of $19,486. So that sounds like a big increase, but $12,100 of that is covered in our revenue line. So when we run extra programs, and what this is extra programs. So, we're doing things like drama now that we never did before. There's also, we get revenue from that. So that is, you'll find that $12,100 is additional revenue that went up in the A's. Fixed charges actually went down. Because Melissa's looking to our pension plan, our medical plan, we found that we were able to decrease some of these numbers. We have some newer employees, some older employees retired. The numbers have come down, so we're actually saving $83,575 on the fixed charges. Registrars have an increase of $1,761.18, mostly due to early voting. Last year, the state was nice enough to give us some money to help us with early voting. This year, typical unfunded mandate, they're not funding us anymore. Now, they're going to say you still have early voting, but we're not going to give any money to support it. So the town has to pick up that. Town hall expenses actually going down a little bit, and that's because of this building. This building is being run cleaner and better. We have early learners that are giving us rent and paying part of the utilities in this building, and that program's growing. School also uses this building, so we're able to drop down the maintenance number on this building by $10,000. Town halls is just a small increase of $593. Social service, I missed, excuse me, $593 on social services, excuse me. Selectmen engineering, that has really not changed. I do use it occasionally. That's $2,500, and I typically don't exceed it, but we typically get between $2,000 and $2,500, so I left it alone. Information technology has a small decrease. So we have gone through 4 IT people in the last 3 years, IT managers. And, they say about if you head against the wall enough times, keep hurting, you should probably stop. Well, we got to that point. We interviewed with a company today. We're going to interview 3 different companies to look into possibly doing our IT, contracting it out. Most small towns, 10,000 and less, do this. Preston, Griswold, Valentine, Sterling, Basra, they're all contracted out. Scotland. Ledger doesn't, but they have a full-time police force, 2 fire stations, and they have 2 libraries that are owned by the town. Stonington doesn't, again, for the same reason, 5 fire companies, police force, and so on. We can do this, and it's just a matter of training our employees to realize that someone can fix our computer remotely. I'm old school. I didn't know if I believe that or not, but I do now because they showed me how it works. But if the next 2 people we talk to, and like the company we talked today, it's very exciting that what they can do. The school is experiencing now to learn, and sometimes you don't need to have that body in the building. Again, I was a proponent to having that body in the building, but now maybe I should rethink what we're doing, and hopefully this might be something that works out better for the town. Public safety. So the biggest increase in public safety is with the Ambulance Association. We've underfunded the Ambulance Association in the last 2 years. I'll be honest with you, when I became the first selectman, one of the first things I did was talk to the Ambulance Association, told them that I was going to get rid of them. Probably not a very popular thing to do in our town, But I was not happy with not so much what it was costing us, but the fact they weren't making enough calls. They're making 68% of the calls. And when it comes to ambulance, you have a service piece and a financial piece. It doesn't, if it's not costing me as much money, but people are dying, that's not helping the town. So I talked to the people with the administration of the ambulance at that time. They've done some wonderful things to get back to where they need to be. I'm happy to say they make 100% of all the calls now. They're 24/7 coverage, 365 days a year. They're well-trained, and I think if anyone is, hopefully nobody has to use them, but if you had used them in the past, you know how wonderful they are. And I gotta say, with them and the fire company, we're very well situated as far as emergency services. So, but because of to do this, there's a price to have a 24/7 coverage and do what they do. And that's why there's that increase. Public Works, there's a mostly wages, but also there's something called LOCIP, which is local capital improvement. We get money from the state for this, so there's money in revenue that offsets the increase on the LOCIP on the Public Works. So it's really not as big an increase as it looks like. Transfer station is mostly contractual, and we've done some improvements there. Turn the page. Public Health. That $1,100 is an increase by Ledge Lake Health District. They're our health district. It's the first time they've increased in probably, I think, 3 or 4 years. Senior Citizens is a small decrease, and I don't want you to think that's why are they decreasing services to senior center. We're not. That they have not come close to their expense account in the last 3 years, and it doesn't make sense to keep putting that same amount of money in there. We only decreased it by $785, but to carry the number they were using, and it's just taxpayer dollars that aren't being used. Why do we have it there? Miscellaneous, there's a $100,750 increase. So that's crazy. Why did that happen? Well, that's that school maintenance number I talked about, the $100,000 number. That was never in our budget before, and it's in the miscellaneous. Because we didn't know where to put it, so that's what it is for now. And last, land use is a decrease of $2,113.57. And most of that is we have a gentleman that's our water authority. He was a retired DEP employee, comes to us on an average of 10 hours a week, but he only charges for when we need him. And we've noticed in the last 2 years, we haven't needed him as often. So he said, why don't you just decrease my pay by a little bit? And we did. So that's where we are on the budget. I'm just turning the page. So I told you that this was draft number 6. So you see draft number 1 is when we started. We had $376,832, which was a 6.5% increase. Then as each time we met, draft 2, we decreased it. Again, draft 3, draft 4, draft 5, and so on. So now we're at a 3.77% increase is where we are tonight. Let me turn the page. The past 3 budgets plus this year and now. So this year we're at 3.77. Last year's budget, this is just a town budget now, 4.37. The 2023-24 is 4.38. And 2022-2023, which we put almost no money into capital, was 2.74. So we're trending pretty well. And again, if you took that 100,000 out, we'd be at the lowest budget in the last 4 years. Okay. Turn the page. Oh, that's not part of my presentation. Okay, that's better. So you can turn it one more time. So
really ramping up your presentations, I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you what you see next year's. So capital, there's 2 parts about capital. One is what are we paying for capital and what's our plan? In the past, I don't know how many years, we didn't have a strong capital plan. And myself and the Board of Selectmen, along with the Board of Finance and the Capital Committee, came up with a plan to look at the next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And what makes up our capital plan? Well, capital is when we spend a lot of money on things like trucks, like plow trucks, fire trucks, ambulances. That's capital. And those are things that, the definition of capital in our town is something that's cost $10,000 or more, and it's going to last 5 years or more. That's how we determine what is capital. It's not like we were buying a lot of computers and they all cost $600 a piece. We don't put them together. It's what does one thing cost? So again, we have what makes up capital is public works, the fire company, the ambulance, and the schools. Okay, turn the page. So how do we come up with a plan? So we looked at what drives the capital on the transfer station and the highway department. Trucks, loaders, and excavators. And what do they cost? They cost between $55,000 and $300,000 a piece. And the average life is between 12 and 15 years because there's a lot of wear and tear on this equipment. So the capital plan we came up with is, what if we take 2 to 3 trucks or loader, excavator, 2 or 3 pieces of equipment every 3 to 4 years, finance it or buy it outright if we have the money. And then if we did that, if we take 2 or 3 each for every 3 or 4 years, over 12 years, the entire fleet would be turned over. At years 13 and 15, just because we're in year 13 and we say, okay, it's time to buy another truck, doesn't mean we have to buy another truck. We can then look at what we have, what condition our trucks are in, and then we can decide if we want to take 2 years off of capital when it comes to the highway department. And then in year 15, we can look at buying a truck. Right now, we have plow trucks that actually have metal signs on the floorboard so water can't get up through them. That's how bad some of the trucks have been in the past. We bought 3 pieces of equipment last year. This is in year 2. And so far, this plan seems to be working. Next page. On the Ambulance Association, there's two different ambulances we can buy. There's a smaller box and a larger box. We just bought the small box last year, and an ambulance life is typically about 10 to 12 years. So when we bought a small ambulance in year 1, and this year's budget is year 2, and we have that as a 5-year financing plan. So in year 5, it's paid in full, and then we can buy the other ambulance in year 6, which again would be a 5-year plan before we bought the first ambulance over. We expect these ambulances to last 10 years. The bigger ambulance is $350,000, the small one's about $150,000. That's in today's world. The thing is, if we get to year 11 and we say that the first ambulance we bought back 10 years ago is still in good shape, we don't have to buy a new ambulance. So even though I'm saying it's a 10-year rotation, it's really a 10 to 12-year rotation, because in year 13, we could look at buying a new ambulance. There's going to be times when the town can take a breather from this capital plan, and we don't have to buy just because it's time to buy it. There's no reason to do that. Next one. So now the big ticket items are the fire vehicles. There's 6 of them. As you know, we have engines, we have a tanker, we have a ladder truck, and we have a rescue truck. Those vehicles cost anywhere from $850,000 to $1.5 million a piece. Those vehicles we're going to try to finance in a 10-year finance plan. And we think, and then those vehicles last about 30 years. So we thought if we put 2 of those vehicles in each decade and never have the 2 most expensive vehicles, which is the R1 rescue truck and the ladder truck in the same decade, because that's over $3 million between the 2 of them, and spread those out, then we can get through 30 years of turning over the entire fleet in 30 years and only have to get 2 trucks at a time in a decade. Again, it makes sense to us. So year 1 to 30 is divided into 3 decades, so 10 years apiece, purchase 2 trucks for each decade. Year 31, we review the condition of all the trucks. And at that point, if we feel like we need to buy a truck, we'll buy it then. Okay, I won't be here 30 years, so let me know how we make out on that. So that's the capital plan. I don't have a plan for the school because the school does their own capital. It gets included with us, but they did not. I shouldn't say, they had a small capital plan this year. They looked at a van. We were able to give them use of one of the senior vans to use, and that kept that van out of the capital plan. So when the town can do something that makes sense, I had a van that was sitting at the senior center that I said to Teresa, how often do we use this? She says 10 days a year. So that's 355 days we don't use it. School needed a van. Just by sitting there, the tires dry out, the van doesn't start. So we end up using that van, and Teresa still has the first shot to use it. She gives us a notice like she did for May 6th, 7th, and whatever, 19th. And she'll still get the first use of that van. But there's no sense in sitting in her parking lot for 355 days a year and have the school asking for one. didn't make sense. So that was the solution to that. I see my friends back up there again. Why? I don't know why that is. Is that a sloth? Are you just trying to tell me something? It's a meerkat. Oh, great. All right, so that's where I am in this presentation. Overall, I just want to tell, I have one other note. The town of Ledyard decided they were going to do I don't think I have it with me, but you have, Kevin. The town of Ledyard decided they were going to do a survey of budgets in the southeastern Connecticut. So they have Colchester, East Lyme, Groton, Ledyard, Montfield, New London, North Stonington, Norwich, Plainfield, Preston, Stonington, and Waterford. Without any changes to this budget, with the projected mill increase, with the lowest increase in mill of all those towns. We also have the second, if we went to the 2.4%, we'd be the second lowest increase of all those towns. Even at the 3.77, we're the fourth lowest. The school is the lowest at 4.0%. They're the lowest of those 12 towns. So overall, I think I have to say that the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Education, and the Board of Finance have really worked hard this year with this budget. I think when you compare us to all the other towns in our area, in school they call it a DERG, but it's not for us, we were called that. But we were actually in fairly good shape as a town. And I want you to know that we as town leaders try to do our best to keep taxes down. We've had our budget passed the first time 3 years in a row, which is, if we do it this year, it might be a record, I'm not sure. But we do our best to try to keep taxes down, not do frivolous spending. And I think we've done a good job, and the Board of Finance holds our feet to the fire, so we have to do that. So, and that's it. I'm done. Are you going to do questions later on, or how do you want to do that? If there's any, whether it's during public comment, or how do you want to do it, Mike?
I think I'm going to do it all at the end.
Okay, I'll be right there. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have the Board of Education, presented by Board of Education Chair Stephanie Mastriani.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Suzanne, for doing my presentation tonight. So this particular slideshow isn't in your packet, but there is a narrative up there, and everything that's in the slideshow is really in the narrative, and my comments are going to be from the narrative. So if you haven't grabbed one, feel free. And then at the back of your narrative is the actual budget for you to look through. So I want to start by talking about how great our schools are. And I think most of you probably know that already, but I really can't say it enough. This year, our middle school was ranked 14th in Connecticut. That's a huge deal because our schools are so small that they're usually not on anybody's radar on this scale. So for us to be recognized by US News and World Report was a really big deal for our town, for our schools, for our staff, and for the students that are there. Our elementary test scores are the highest in the region. And so when we say region, these are the towns that we are talking about: Stonington, East Lyme, Montville, Groton, Preston, Brooklyn, Ledyard, Killingly, Griswold, Lisbon, and Norwich. Some of those we compare ourselves to because they're close, and others we compare ourselves to because they look like us in size. So we had the highest test scores in math in grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. In ELA, grades 3 and 4, science, grade 5. And then at our high school, our SAT scores are very high as well. We're 3rd in ELA, 4th in math in the region, and science, we're 2nd in the region for grades 8 and 11. We did a couple of new things in fiscal year 2025 that I just want to take a minute to talk to you about. First was that we created a full-time athletic director. So most of you know we've always had an athletic director. Ellen Turner was with us for a gazillion years, I think. But not only was she the athletic director, but we had her teaching gym and health. And when Ellen retired, we took a look at the position. what was being done, the way we were trending, what we needed to do, and we decided to create a full-time athletic director. And so that was in last year's budget, was the first time that we had done that. So the creation of a full-time athletic director has led to significant improvements in our athletic program and the school community. One of the problems that we had when we took grade 6 back to the elementary schools, that our middle school sports were falling apart. We didn't have enough kids. 7th and 8th grade at Wheeler isn't enough to run all of our sports teams every season. And so we had always talked about maybe we should include those 6th graders again, because when they were in middle school, they were playing with our middle school kids. Couldn't figure out a way to do it. Our new athletic director not only found a way to do it, but she found a really successful way to do it. And now we were able to run every middle school sport every season with the addition of 5 to 8 6th graders on each of those teams. It's making a huge difference, not only in our kids' ability to actually play. So if you liked girls softball and you were in middle school, you didn't get to play girls softball because we didn't have a team, but we have a team again this year. So we're allowing our kids to play and they're experiencing success, which is a big deal for young people. Additionally, our new athletic director has created a stronger social media presence. She's increased the visibility of our student athlete achievements. It's a big deal for our kids when they're being recognized for their success. She created a leadership council consisting of student representatives from each sport. And she's really enhanced communication, team culture, and provided great support to our coaches. She revitalized the Sports Boosters Club. And the way it translates to success for the taxpayer is that the sports boosters are raising more money and they're supporting sports at a much higher level than they were able to before. So for example, we have a track team now. Track is expensive and they needed new equipment. And so the athletic director came to Sports Boosters. We were able to, Sports Boosters was able to fund a bunch of meets for these kids and some equipment for them. And so the school didn't have to fund that. Sports Boosters was able to. In addition, the AD is writing grants. She wrote a grant to the North Stonington Education Foundation and she received it. And that was we have a weight room, but our equipment was really old and she was able to get us new equipment for the kids in the weight room. Additionally, we have a director of instruction and learning. You may remember, we've been talking about this for a few years, and we sort of gently transitioned someone into that program. In fiscal year 25, we converted to a full-time director of instruction and learning. It's positively impacted the district in a number of ways, including organizing professional development, supporting instructional improvement, teaching and instructional technology, aligning curriculum and assessment practices, facilitating the district data team, coordinating interdistrict partnerships, training new teachers, leading the district's NEASC accreditation, and teaching Education 101 to students that are in the education pathway. The third thing we did in fiscal year 2025 was create something called the Cub Club. The Board of Ed sent out a survey to parents asking what their before and after school needs were, because we heard that there were some needs that weren't able to be met through traditional daycare programs. What we learned is that there was a really high need, and so we created Cub Club. It's a self-sustaining and flexible before and after care program. So each month, parents can choose which sessions they'd like their children to participate in, and then they pay for those sessions. So the taxpayer doesn't pay for Cub Club pays for itself. In March, we had 62 kids participate in Cub Club. Additionally, those kids that I just spoke about that were in the education pathway in high school, we've connected them with Cub Club so they're getting valuable experience. Next slide, please. Here are some highlights from our elementary school. As you saw on our first slide, our school has outperformed its DERG in neighboring schools and state assessments, excelling in math and science across all grade levels, as well as in most grade levels for English language arts. We've been piloting new math programs, reading programs, and our science is really doing amazing things. Additionally, we've been doing some interdisciplinary learning and using STEAM. Right now, the school believes it has all the right programs in place and plans to continue to refine and reinforce the progress that they've made in recent years. Next slide. I spoke in the beginning about our wonderful middle school and all the great things that we have doing and going on there. Right now, our teachers are reinstating the middle school model, which includes the introduction of student-led conferences and enhanced focus on interdisciplinary units in grades 7 and 8. Additionally, we're committed to maintaining the inclusion of sixth graders in our sports programs. Understanding the importance of providing additional opportunities for middle school students, we continue to offer programs such as middle school clubs and homework club. Our high school programming remains aligned with Wheeler's vision of the graduate, supporting multiple pathways for students, whether they plan to attend college, join the military, or enter the workforce. Opportunities like internships and work-study assignments not only equip students with real-world skills, but also reinforce our commitment to keeping students in North Stonington instead of seeking opportunities outside of the district. Innovations in our program of studies are designed to ensure every student can succeed after graduation. When we're looking at expanded athletic opportunities, we continue to look at ways to provide opportunities for students while leveraging the resources to keep our costs down. For example, I spoke about the track team that was started in 24-25. It was a huge success. 30 students wanted to participate, which is a pretty big deal at Wheeler. Thanks to our partnership with Griswold, we were able to minimize the cost by using their facilities that limited our expenses related to coaching, transportation, and meet fees. Our Wheeler School of Choice program continues to thrive with 9 to 10 students accepted into the incoming freshman class. This program, coupled with expanded athletic opportunities, attracts students from Preston and Voluntown while retaining our North Stonington students. I hear sometimes people say, maybe we're offering our kids too much. It's really wonderful what we offer them, but do they really need that much? The really amazing thing about Wheeler is that we develop every student, not just traditional college-bound students. We're so small that we can leverage our size and we can really meet the individual needs of each child. Our teachers are able to find individual opportunities, they find flexibilities in schedules, and they make things work for kids to have the opportunities that they really need to have. I think a great example is our dual enrollment program at the New England Institute of Technology. This is the first year that we're offering this. We had a student in high school who was interested in automotive work. We don't have that at Wheeler. So he goes to the New England Institute of Technology. He's a senior right now. He completes his Wheeler requirements and he goes to New England Tech. When he graduates from Wheeler in June, he'll be halfway to his associate's degree. Title money was used this year, and then the student will pay next year. Every year, our administrators look for different programs that meet the needs of the students that are in school right now. Next slide, please. Our special services department continues to do really amazing things. By enhancing transition activities, expanding life skills instruction, and strengthening in-district supports, this department continues to create an inclusive, engaging, and well-rounded learning experience for all students. The district continues to strengthen its transitional program with a combination of new initiatives and the expansion of existing opportunities. These programs ensure that students gain the life skills and experiences needed for success well beyond high school. We're revamping and expanding life skills classes at Wheeler to better prepare students for post-secondary success. The district is revamping and expanding the life skills, ensuring a more comprehensive and structured approach to its core transitional skills. By embedding these critical areas into the curriculum, students will gain confidence and independence as they transition well beyond high school. The continued success of having a board-certified behavior analyst, the BCBA, we talked a lot about that at budget season last year, and our registered behavior technicians, the RBTs, within the district has really been transformational. These professionals provide proactive, individualized behavioral support, significantly reducing the need for out-of-district placements. Next slide, please. Here's a look at our projected enrollment as well as our enrollment this year. So you can see the difference. In grades 7 through 12, this includes 34 students from Preston and Voluntown who paid tuition to our town. You'll also see at the bottom where our students are choosing to go out of district. We have 9 students projected to be enrolled in the magnet school or one of the magnet schools next year. We paid tuition for that. We have 4 children looking to be enrolled in VOAG. We paid tuition for that. And then we have 26 students who will be enrolled in a technical school. We do not pay tuition there. Oftentimes I'm asked during the budget presentation, what's the total cost to educate a student at Wheeler? We sometimes talk about how that number is put together. But the state says most recently, it costs $20,659 to educate a student here in North Stonington. Next slide. So here are the budget drivers. Salaries is where our biggest increase is. This is year 3 of our teacher contract, so this is the last year of the contract. Additionally, to the contractual increase, we also have a step increase this year, so the increase is a little bigger than we looked at last year. Additionally, our health benefits are up 9%. And you'll see in technology, we have about $100,000 increase. I'm going to talk a little bit more about technology later. Additionally, we have a decrease in maintenance. Bob touched on that a little. I'm going to talk more in depth about that later as well. Transportation, you'll see about $170,000 increase. We had to rebid our transportation contract. So next year will be year 1 of our new contract, and that's where that increase is really coming from. Utilities, $103,000 increase. That's not an increase on what we're actually spending this year. That's an increase on what we budgeted. So we grossly under budgeted for our utilities last year, and our electricity bills, much like all of us at home, went through the roof. And so our budget for next year is really based on the actuals that we were spending this year. In central office, you see about a $36,000 increase. That's mainly due to professional services and consulting, some training brought in. We have a really new central office. Kathy Trammell, our business manager, has been here almost a year now, and we're so happy to have her. We also have a new accountant and a new executive assistant in the office. And so it's important that everyone get the training and the support that they need to be successful and efficient. Some of the other expenses, it says schools over there. It's a combination of things that you'll see as we sort of work through the budget. And then you see at the bottom tuition, that's special education tuition, and that's a savings of about $90,000 this year. So it brings our increase to $839,551. And then we have to adjust down because we have about $222,000 in grants and title money. So my official increase here is $617,519. Next slide. So here it is, really big for everyone to see, $617,519 with an increase of 4%. Next slide. So diving a little deeper into technology, much like Bob has experienced at Town Hall with IT, we had a resignation from our IT director earlier in the year. And in looking at how we were managing IT at the school, our superintendent decided maybe we should look to Learn, who's a consulting service that we do a lot of work with, to see what they have for us. Our IT director, including salary and benefits, was almost $150,000. We're now using a consultant from Learn to be our IT director, but it doesn't mean just one person. It means that we can talk to a director level person in regards to the area that we need help in. So if it's a software issue, a hardware issue, a networking issue, we can call in those experts. They come in and they're helping to solve our problems and put us on the right path. Additionally, we have an IT technician here on staff and we'll retain that person. We're able to add an IT technician from Learn 2 days a week, and the cost of all of that together is $80,000. So we have a huge savings, and we believe that not only is it great to have the savings, but we're also providing a much more robust IT program and IT support to our staff. Next slide. Additionally, we've created a sustainable technology plan. This is, I think, on a much smaller scale, similar to the way Bob described the town needing to develop a capital plan. So we need technology in our schools to teach nowadays. It's the way that the world is going. All of us use technology every day. We have very old hardware. And so a technology committee was charged with developing a sustainable replacement plan for all of our hardware in the district. It was important to the board that we create a plan that, much like Bob did with capital, that we can stick to. If we're going to say that we have a one-to-one Chromebook program for grades 9 through 12, and if we're moving into one for grades 5 to 8, we have to make sure we can continue to budget for that. And so we looked at what this meant. So it means that we need to have some sort of a plan to fund our Chromebook programs, our interactive whiteboards, and our teacher laptops. Right now, the district is using 46 laptops from 2016 and older. So that's what teachers are using in their classrooms. So our budget contains 14 new laptops, which will be what we're looking to sustain every year. We're looking to replace 14 teacher laptops every year. This will phase out the desktops. So right now, some teachers have a laptop and a desktop. We're going to get rid of desktops. We're not going to replace those. But we are going to start on a replacement plan for our teacher laptops. In order to get us caught up so we can maintain a steady level of purchasing, we're going to use our non-lapsing account, and I'll show that slide a bit later, for 32 teacher laptops this year. So we're not putting that in the budget. We're going to purchase that out of the non-lapsing account. Right now, in our one-to-one program, we do grades 9 through 12. We decided right before COVID that we wanted to go to a one-to-one Chromebook program for our high school kids. Then COVID happened, and we had a number of grants that provided us with lots of Chromebooks so we could get laptops in the hands of kids so that they could continue to learn through the pandemic. We didn't really think long-term about what we were going to do with that. And now it seems like we're moving in a direction where we want to do a one-to-one program with grades 5 through 8. The board wants to continue to have those conversations. And so we have budgeted this year for the Chromebooks to be purchased for grades, for the incoming freshmen. So that will be the one-to-one program for the new high school kids. They keep that Chromebook through high school. And then we're going to buy the Chromebooks for the 5th graders that will follow them from 5th to 8th grade through the non-lapsing account. Again, keeping that bottom line budget number down and purchasing it in a different way. Interactive boards, they're also called smart boards, whiteboards. They are replacing all of the old projectors that you see in classrooms. We have a number of those in our schools right now, but we need to get more. So 5 smart boards every year will be replaced with our sustainable technology plan. But to catch up a bit, we're going to purchase 5 out of our non-lapsing account. What we also realize is that we are experiencing IT infrastructure failures. And so we need to upgrade our infrastructure to continue to replace aging switches, battery backups, firewall access points, and servers. So we're going to try and do this over a 5-year period of time at between $20,000 to $40,000 per year. This year, we're going to purchase some of that out of the budget and then another piece of it out of our non-lapsing account, again, to catch up without inflating our bottom line budget number. Next slide. Bob talked a little bit about facilities, and so I want to talk about how it impacted our budget here. If you look at the supply line, you'll see an increase of $26,000. And you see our budget was 53,220 for this year. So it's not an increase over what we've spent this year, but rather an increase that ties in with our actuals this year. So we spent about $80,000 this year, and so we want to make sure we're funding that line appropriately. Uniform allowance, you see a small increase there. That's a contractual obligation that we have. We have to provide a certain number of uniforms to our custodians, and that will be what the increase looks like. Our general building services. This is the line that changed because of the shift in what the town has done. It's probably the most widely discussed issue among the Board of Selectmen, Board of Education, and Board of Finance this year. We talked about the maintenance and the upkeep of the school. We used to have the permanent school building committee that used to talk about what we do to maintain our buildings. When we started building the new school and renovating the elementary school, that committee was disbanded. And now we have new schools, but we didn't have a good plan for maintaining them. Who was going to do it? How are those decisions going to be made? Who is going to fund it? And so we were funding it out of our general building services line item. And so the capital committee worked really hard on this and put together a plan. As a result, now it's very clear who's responsible for maintaining what. So this, I think, equals a benefit to the taxpayer in that these assets that we'll be paying for, I think, 25 more years, they'll be maintained. What we did was look at what we spent this year. So you'll see our budget was $105,000. That's not what we're projected to spend on repairs. We overshot that budget by almost $100,000. And so we, in looking forward, reduced our budget even more than $100,000 of what we spent this year and brought that line item down to $75,000, thinking that based on this new agreement and what it is that we're responsible for, we think that that $75,000 will be appropriate. And then the Board of Selectmen's budget is going to be responsible for maintaining the bigger issues in the school. We're very lucky that there's a really wonderful relationship between the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education. I'm really confident that any issue that arises, because this will be the first year we've done this, when we're not sure who's supposed to pay for what, Bob couldn't be more wonderful or easier to work with. And so we're going to figure it out. And the Board of Finance has been very supportive of this process. And so I am convinced that this is a huge win for all of us and for the town in protecting this asset. Next slide, please. Bob touched on this stuff briefly. This is the projected revenue to the town. You see the ECS money, the educational cost sharing. As Bob mentioned, it's almost $100,000 less than what we're currently getting. We don't have any control over that money. It's what the state says that we're allocated to get. I think the biggest win here is in our School of Choice program. When we started this program, I think in 21, 22, we had 4 kids. And the amount of money that we were bringing into the town was, it was $50,000. So we were excited, but it wasn't moving anybody's needle anywhere. And now we have the second cohort graduating in 2025, and we're bringing $510,000 worth of tuition into the town. We have not had to add staffing or services into our school. So these are simply students from Preston and Voluntown who are identifying that what we offer at Wheeler is something that seems like it's a good fit to them. They apply to our school. If our administration thinks that they are a good fit for us, then they are admitted to Wheeler, and we get to have them be a part of our school. And now that we have about 34 students, I think that's the projection for next year, we bring $510,000 of revenue in, and that feels significant to me. They're not only adding revenue, though. I think it's important to talk about these students for the other things that they add. They add to our culture. 34 students are a lot of extra students to add to our little school. They contribute academically, socially, athletically, as well as providing an income stream to our school. And I think that we should all be really proud of this program. Next slide, please. So I spoke about the things that we're going to be funding with our non-lapsing account. Our non-lapsing account is something that we started, I think, right around COVID, that allows the Board of Education to put up to 2% of their budget, whatever's left over at the end of the year, up to 2% into a savings account. We started this in thinking about the need for long-term planning. We didn't have an ability to save any money. And so what would happen is at the end of the year, if there was leftover money, sometimes we would rush to spend it, but we never had a plan. There was never anything really attached to what was happening with this money. But this account allows us an opportunity to really think things out, to save, and to purchase things, one-time expenses, instead of adding them into our budget and increasing that bottom line, which we can't decrease unless we have significant changes to our school. So whatever the budget is, that's where it starts the next year. So by using this non-lapsing account, we're able to take those one-time purchases out of our budget and purchase them from here. So right now, projected for next year, we took out contract negotiations, $40,000 of that we took out of our budget, because we were projected to spend $50,000 next year. The only reason why we're spending $50,000 next year is because we have to negotiate our teacher's contract, which is an expensive negotiation. But the following year, we won't need that. So we took it out of the budget. We're going to pay for that with the non-lapsing account. And then if you look down to the bottom, you see security cameras. We're going to purchase 30 of those. 10 of them we're going to replace, and 20 of them are new cameras that we're going to install in the school. Again, a one-time expense that we didn't want to add into our budget. And then the other stuff that you see here, IT infrastructure, teacher laptops, interactive whiteboards, and Chromebooks, that's the catch-up purchasing that I discussed during the technology portion. So it's a total of $155,000 that we plan to spend out of our non-lapsing account. Just for a reference point, right now we have an unencumbered balance in our non-lapsing account of about $195,000, and we plan to spend $155,000 of that with these items. Next slide, please. Bob gave you a brief budget history, so I wanted to show you the Board of Ed budget history since 2016, 2017. Our 10-year average increase is 2.34%. And I'll do the next slide again. And then these are some other school districts, their actual increases from 24, 25. Of course, everyone's at the same place that we are in budget season. And so we just have whatever the Board of Finance has approved for 2025. So you see there that we're at the low end. And again, I offer this just for comparison, not necessarily for an opinion on what's good or bad. So our budget proposal includes a 4% increase necessary to cover the rising costs while maintaining the high standard of education expected by both the local community and tuition-paying students. A couple of things that we have not talked about yet in the budget presentation is that in our 4% budget, we did remove 1.1 FTE teacher positions and summer school in order to attain the 4% increase. The budget process removed non-essential expenses, reflecting a focus on efficiency and fiscal responsibility, with the goal of continuously improving the quality of the school system and contributing to the community's success. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this point, what I'd like to do, since Stephanie, you just stay up there because it could be easier for purposes. If people have questions about the Board of Education budget that they want to ask Chairwoman Mastriani, I think this is an appropriate time for that. And if you have an overall comment about the budget, you're allowed, you can come back up, Brian. And I tease him. But if you have questions about the budget right now, please come up for the Board of Education, and then I'm going to have Bob Carlson come up for questions on the general government, and then we can add some overall comments and the time for, if you want to see something taken out or put into the budget at that time. So for questions for Stephanie, why don't you start us off, Nick?
I should also mention that I have our superintendent, Troy Hopkins, and Kathy Tremmel, our business manager. So I won't be able to answer all of your questions, but they should be able to.
That's the money. Let's talk about results.
Okay.
As to comparable towns in regard to maybe a similar size or per capita income, how do we compare on the results of the teaching in regard to our children's learning and grades as compared to each other?
Can you go back to my presentation, Suzanne? I'm sorry. Nick, if you look at that very first slide that Suzanne's going to put up, that one. Those are, I think, the most notable achievements, and with the comparisons to the schools near us or the schools like us.
Say that again.
So this slide right here, that we have the highest elementary test scores in the region, and that region includes Stonington, East Lyme, Montville, Groton, Preston, Brooklyn, Ledyard, Killingly, Griswold, Lisbon, and Norwich.
And in your own opinion, how do we compare? We good, bad, or okay, or what?
Well, I think we're the very best. And I think, not only do I think that because I'm the chair of the Board of Education, so I think that I'm supposed to think that, but we have 4 very different learners in our house, and all 4 of our children who are so different, I think, have had incredible individual experiences. And then, so that's anecdotal. And then when you look at sort of the more standardized results, that's what it's showing. We're doing incredible work. We have incredible staff. We have fabulous administrators, and our students are really wonderful. And they're doing really well here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
I think it's important to note that you can't fake test scores. You can't just say we have amazing teachers and everyone loves it. The proof is in the pudding, and what we're providing in education for our children and what they're achieving, in the standard statewide test scores. And you see that we're 14th in the state, and there's a lot of schools, and little old North Stonington is 14th out of them. So any additional questions about the Board of Education budget? Ann, please.
Just a question, is there any reason, anyway, can the town and the schools share the IT tech, or is it different skills needed?
That's a really good question. And in fact, one that we really explored, because we had an IT problem or transition earlier in the year, and then Bob ran into one as well. We spent a lot of time talking about whether or not we could share resources. We had already committed to going with Learn, And because this Learn consultant was so inexpensive, and there was an additional grant from the state which reduced the cost even more, we felt like we couldn't move away from that. And it doesn't include municipalities. So it's only something that can be used for education. So we looked and we couldn't find something that looked like it would give us the same cost savings. But I think the wonderful thing about working with Bob is that he's really open to having those conversations. And we've had a lot of them over the last year and a half about how we can do things better, more efficiently. Bob's help and his highway department has been incredible in working with the schools to make sure that we're doing the maintenance that makes sense, that if there's a resource that the town has that the school can use, that we're using that. I think that we're collaborating at a level that we haven't been able to before, and it's really been amazing.
If you would, please just tell us who you are and where you live in town.
Joe Yiddish, John Hill. Many times this question's been asked, but I don't think it's ever been really answered. Where do we stand on cost per student in relationship to the towns?
Sure. If you look in your narrative, it gives you, let's see, it's on page 10. So it gives you hours, $20,659,000. So the state average, 23,243. And then if you look at other people around us, Ledger just over 18, Groton a little over 19. I'm sorry, Griswold a little over 19, Groton at 20, Montville at 21, Voluntown at 23 and a half, Preston 23 and a half, Stonington 25 and a half, Norwich 23 and a half. So I think oftentimes we talk about how did we find that number, and I think you could argue how you get to that number, but this is an apples to apples comparison. So the way they got to the North Stonington number is the same way that they're getting to those other schools' numbers.
So some costs are not covered, but everybody's doing the same math.
I think the way you get that number is different. So I've heard Gary talk about a different way to get the number than the state necessarily does. I think Lou's talked about a little bit of a different way to get the number. And so I can't speak to the validity of the way that the number is developed, but I can tell you that using that same methodology, this is what other schools look like. If that kind of answers your question.
Kind of.
Okay.
Everyone's using that same formula to get their numbers.
No questions to me. All right, could you elaborate on how you get to the $510,000? Oh, sorry, raincoats, last approved. How you get to the $510,000 for the Voluntown and Preston students that come to North Stonington?
That's what they're paying us to be here. So we
But how
have,
do you get to that?
we have a tuition number that if you look, I'll show you,
Yeah, but how many students are coming?
34.
Okay, so if it's,
So the chart, if that helps, is on page 13. And that's going to show you what we charge and what we have charged. So we approved a chart for 5 years or for 4 years. And we're now in year 3 of the 4-year chart. So you see regular ed tuitions, just over $13,000 per student. Special ed, 22 and a half. Alternative ed, about $40,000. And then any additional costs that a student might incur for special education, we charge back to that town as well.
the 510 is for 1 year
Yes,
with 20, how many students?
34.
Okay.
Stephanie, it's Winona. We ran out of handout.
Like, where is that coming
It's me. It's the ghost of your Board of Finance nightmares. We ran out of handouts and the Board of Finance doesn't have any of these handouts. We will remind you of that many times over the next 2 months. But if you could please send that to us so that we can load it up to the website, because I think a lot of people in the audience don't have this narrative that you're talking about. And I
Sure.
think people online would.
Troy,
like
is
to
this
see it as
on,
well.
is this online for the school as
Yeah.
well?
I'm just saying, we want to be able to load it as a handout so that the people online, the people in the room that don't have it, and then this board so that we can have it as well. Thank you.
Sure. Do you want to make more copies? Yeah, that'd be awesome, just so we have them in the room.
Troy, don't worry about the copies in the room. Just make sure that they're available for people can review them at their leisure. Any additional questions for,
I think Nick has another one.
Nick Mullane, Miller Road?
Educate one child and find out that the academic isn't easy for him and he's better suited for a trade or class and tech type stuff. How do you get him out of school with some type of focus as to how he can use the education that's from Wheeler to make himself successful in learning and get a good job and making money?
Troy, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's a good question for me. Good question. As Stephanie had stated, we take real pride in meeting the needs of individual students, no matter what their needs are. And a lot of kids are, they have different interests. We have many intervention teachers to meet their needs. We have counselors to meet kids' needs. We have people doing social work, school psychologists to meet students' needs. And regarding academics and their interest, if they're not going to be going to college, we opened the wood shop 2 years ago for more hands-on experience for kids. We got a lot of kids taking those manufacturing classes now. We just got a Perkins, we get Perkins grants every year to do more, like get 3D printers and that type of thing for kids. We had, Stephanie talked about the student going to New England Tech for his senior year, who's going to have half of his associate's degree when he gets his diploma from Wheeler. Students do a senior project where they have a community mentor and they can choose the area that they want to learn about. And they gain experience from that mentor. Often kids are choosing something they think they might want to have a career in that might not involve college, or it could involve college or some training after college. A lot of our kids, choose a lot of different pathways. They go into family businesses, some go into the military. And we support kids no matter what their goals are. And we were able to do that without kids falling through the crack because of our small size. So we actually take a lot of pride in meeting kids' needs and their interests, their desires for their future, the best we can. And I think a lot of graduates feel like they were well prepared and supported in what they want to do with their life.
and I believe, Stephanie, from your slide, was there 26 kids that go to technical high schools versus Wheeler?
For next year, it looks like we have 26 enrolling.
And we provide transportation for those.
We do.
Brian?
My question would be,
Who are you from? Who are you really from? And what's your name and where do you?
oh, yeah. It's Brian Rathman, 263 Grindstone Hill Road.
Thank you, Brian.
I'm confused on the Chromebooks and the computers. Are they one of the same?
No. So the laptops that I talked about, separate from the Chromebooks, they're both laptops. But the laptops are for the teachers and the Chromebooks are for the students.
Okay, what happens? I think I remember seeing at one of your meetings, when a student keeps, what do they keep? They keep a Chromebook? Are they keeping a computer? Where do they keep it?
So they have a Chromebook assigned to them that lasts them from 9th to 12th grade. At the end of each school year, they turn it in and then they're reissued that book when they return in the fall. But it stays with them. And then Chromebooks are only supported by Google for 4 years. And so we have historically given it to them at the end of 4 years. But we are looking at whether or not it's worth it to take those back and recycle them and try and use them in the younger grades.
So that would have been my next question, because I know you want them for the younger grades. And the way I see it, it's going to be a total of 8 years, so we'll be doing that. We'll be paying for them twice for the students.
Not for the middle school kids, for the younger grades. So for elementary school kids.
Okay. That's all I got for now.
Okay.
Michael, they're having trouble hearing online with those mics. I
Okay.
think they'll have to go up to the podium to talk.
We could just take turns up here.
We're having trouble, what's happening is the people online are having trouble hearing the questions from the audience. And so we're going to have you come to the podium to ask your question.
No, don't put your hand there. I need it, please. No, look okay. No,
Sorry, Ann.
I'm going to ask this question in the other part of the budget too. Is any of the nonsense in Washington going to affect you and the feeding of the kids in programs and all that?
I think it's a reasonable question. I don't know. I think things change a lot. We get a lot of emails and Troy keeps us updated. The Connecticut Department of Education filters what's happening nationally to us. And so we seem okay now, but I think it will evolve and we'll have to evolve and decide how to meet the challenges that come our way.
That's a shameful answer. I mean, I know you have to use it, but it's nasty. Thank you. My little political statement.
Thanks, Ann.
And Ann, we'll have First Selectman Carlson answer that question on behalf of the board. And maybe we can segue right into questions for him.
So, Ann, the only way it would affect the town at this point would be through grants. We don't have any grants that are relying on the federal government at this time. So it's not going to be affected directly. I know it has affected some grants in town with the the library, Will Library had a grant affected, and so did the KNSA had a grant affected. But as far as the town itself, government does not have anything affected at this time. From what I heard from the director, that yes, that the last grant they had, they don't have it right now.
What was Ann's question in that last one? We didn't hear her.
She wanted to know if the town was affected in any, with things happening in Washington.
I realize, but what she just mentioned.
Oh, she wanted to know if the, sorry, she wanted to know if the library, how it was affected. I said their last grant, from what I heard from Amy Kennedy, was affected.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, anybody in the audience have questions for Selectman Carlson on the general government budget? Yes, sir. Jim
Holdridge, Winter Track Hill Road.
Can someone explain to me why the given class of budget was taken to zero?
I can try to explain it. So the original ask was $35,000. We dropped it down to $20,000. The Board of Selectmen were contacted through letters and attendants at our meetings asking if we could look at it again. They felt that the The main reason was that there was not an organization in place. Yes, there was a given clause, but it wasn't a 501c3. And there was confusion on what if somebody from anywhere in town said, we were now doing this, can we have somebody from the town? We had talked to the Sarah from the Given Closet and explained to her that we had hoped that once she became a 501c3, we could go for appropriation to cover some costs through the town, but it would not be, it didn't seem prudent to keep it in the budget. I also told Sarah that if she wanted to, there was a night called tonight's meeting, where we have a public hearing on the budget. Anyone can come back and talk to the Board of Finance and say, we don't think it was the right thing to do to take it out of the budget. And this is their opportunity to come back and say, we want to put it back in the budget or a portion of it back in the budget.
Okay, that's quite ironic. You were going through the school and the slides that Stephanie put on, did a nice job. And we happen to see the Giving Closet there, which is an asset to the school of helping to train the kids for business and how to work together and all these things. And then we defund it. You know, what the hell are we doing?
So historically, the way that started was the Give Back Club at the school started the Giving Closet. And it grew. And I think Sarah and Robin, those people that work with the Giving Closet will say that it got bigger, much faster than anybody anticipated. The school does work on it somewhat, but it's mostly the wonderful volunteers like Sarah, Robin, and Mrs. Schilke and so on that work with it. They do an awful lot of wonderful things. It's just that the organization, we felt wasn't there at this time to support it financially, however, that we would support it in the future through appropriations if necessary.
Okay, so the funding could come if they become a 501c3.
That's correct.
Okay.
And before we get into, I'm sure there may be other people that want to, Mr. Olson, I'll get to you in 2 seconds. Before we go into the Giving Closet, because I know we have plenty of people that have things to say. I just want to make sure we have any questions for Mr. Carlson on the government. And if there are still questions regarding the Board of Education budget, we're going to go do those, and then we can talk a little further about any other additional comments overall. But Mr. Olson, please.
John Olson, Wyosip Road. I have a question that I'm not sure whether it's best answered by the selectmen or the Board of Finance. The last time I was able to come to a meeting regarding the budget was about a month ago. And it was in regard, the question I have is in regard to the undesignated fund. There was an excess of the amount that we had collected, and there was a major discussion as to how to utilize that excess funds. I don't see that there's a reduction in the debt, which is what at that time I had recommended we do with it. The discussion on that evening was also whether that excess money was going to be used to reduce the operating budget for this year, which would only be a one-time benefit to not raising the mill rate. But I had suggested that we do a reduction of the debt, which would then add 25 years of additional interest to the reduction and the benefit to the town. Was that the decision that was made, or is it just not apparent here?
Well, that is a Board of Finance question, Mr. Olson, and it's a really, really good topic.
Yeah, the only reason I raise it now is because it was a line item, you know, the debt is part of the town budget. So
Right.
I didn't know when it was best to ask.
Yeah, I don't know if that would necessarily, it wouldn't change that debt number at this time unless it, you know, once it's paid in the future years, it would probably change that debt number. But the decision on, and what he's talking about is we have an undesignated fund. It's the rainy day fund, as people call it. And the Board of Finance has a policy, written policy in place that says that, and it's based upon the budget for all of the expenditures for the year. And our policy is that we do not want that undesignated fund to be less than 8% of that whole number. But we'd also, at this point, don't want it to be over 17%, 8.5%, right? 8.5% is the bottom, is the floor, 17% is the ceiling. And we are projected, we're actually not even projected, we are over that 17% at the present. So
And that sum is?
we're roughly 344,000 over the 17%.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and any numbers that we talk about tonight, other than the budget numbers that are on these actual budgets, are, they're not set in stone, but roughly 344,000 is what we have as an estimate of where we're over the 17%. Our process is to come up with expenditure budgets that meet the town's needs, meet the Board of Education and the district's needs, that we think are fiscally smart and we have a chance of passing in a referendum. And I'm gonna show you a spreadsheet that shows you where we are with regard to the revenue that we have into the town and the budgets as presented and where that leaves us as a bottom line, whether we're in the black or in the red. And after tonight's presentation, we will then go back and take the feedback that we've gotten from you guys and decide, are there changes to the expenditure budgets that should happen, given the feedback? And also consideration, Mr. Olson, is right to your point, do we use the excess in the undesignated fund to mitigate a mill rate increase or put it towards debt or do something with that increase as it relates to these budgets? So yes, that money, that excess money is very much in our minds as we go forward. We just haven't decided exactly what to do yet. Does that answer your question?
Mostly. So the decision is not yet made. So there is still the potential that you'll take that 300 and whatever that number is, $1,000 plus the interest and consider that as a possibility. So the possibility might be that we reduce more of the debt since we already have that money. It wouldn't be a raise in taxes to do that. We already have the money collected.
There would never be, we wouldn't use the money to lower the debt that would cost taxpayers more money. It's only if there's an excess in the policy, our policy says we have to come up with a plan, by the end of the year to reduce it back to the 17% or lower.
Right.
Because we don't want to hold the taxpayers' money beyond the 17%. We want to do something with it. And that would be, and the policy says you either reduce the debt or reduce the mill rate.
And that decision is yet to come.
That decision is yet to come. We want to have fiscally sound expenditure budgets before we decide if we're going to be using that undesignated fund for any purpose.
Okay, thank you.
Yes? Okay, the question was, there was discussion back a few months ago, and we talk about the undesignated fund often because it's part of our fiscal profile. And we knew that we were close to the 17% ceiling in that with the town audit confirming what remained in the black last year when we ended fiscal year 24-25, 24-25, that we were going to probably go over that threshold. And so it's always been in the back of my mind, what are we going to do with that excess if we have to basically give the town back its money? And so the question was, is that still part of the consideration? And the answer is yes. Yes, Jim.
This question about the capital budget. If I understood you right, we're gonna start out in the first 3, 5 years, whatever, of upgrading equipment in 3 different departments. Wouldn't it be more prudent to do one group for 5 years, the next group for another 5, the next group for another 5? Instead of having a big hit now, and then there'll be a lull in the middle, and we never see a tax reduction, so we're gonna use it somewhere else, and then we get hit again.
So as we did this plan, Jim, the reason we looked at all 3 areas, and we evened it out so there's not a big hit coming in year 3, 4, or 5. We spread it out in such a way that we're pretty consistent with our capital throughout the 20-year plan. So we're not jumping from 400,000 one year for capital and 1.2 million the next year. It's pretty much leveled out at about 3% of the overall budget.
But 13 to 16, there's no expenditure in emergencies, so that should be a lot less.
Right, so it could be. So when we get to if you're looking at the highway department, Public Works, you've got, so the trucks there would all be rotated through in all new after 12 years. They wouldn't all be new, but there would be no truck more than 12 years old. Year 13, 14, we don't have to buy new trucks. If they're in good shape or they need small dollars to repair them, we keep them on the road. Year 15, we start looking at buying possibly a new truck.
Okay, so we have a slowdown in our spending during those years.
Correct, so it'd be.
So why not just spread them out and do, let's say, take the fire department siding this first, select, whoever needs it the worst, I don't care which group, and do that, take care of their immediate needs, then the next and the next.
So as
we're going to have a steady budget instead of highs and lows.
So the fire department's equipment is much more expensive than the highway department equipment. So as we're taking care of the fire department equipment, the highway department equipment's getting that much older as it's being repaired and the repair costs are going up. So we're working on all the departments at once. And the highway department, the ambulance and the fire company all said, these are the trucks most in need. So we by doing it all at the same time and keeping a level capital through the next 20 years made sense to us to do that. But the way you're suggesting it, I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's, if you work on one area, then the other area is getting old and now it's in.
Right, but it just, like I say, I've never seen a reduction in taxes because you had extra money, but there's got the low where we're going to be not spending so much money, but we're going to get hammered for the next 5 years.
We reduced our taxes last year. We reduced our taxes last year.
And actually, not the year before that, but the year before that. So we've been pretty flat in the last 3 years on taxes, to be honest with you.
I mean, I think for an overall, to sum it up on capital, last year, we decided, and the year before that, we decided that the capital was always the first thing to get cut. When the revenue increases did not make it to cover the expenditure increases, capital always lost out. And we've done a poor job historically of maintaining our capital assets. So the Board of Finance said, we're not doing that anymore. And we're going to decide the capital budget first, and then it's not going to be touched. And so the Board of Selectmen and the parties that are involved, the firemen, the town crew, have done a great job of getting together and figuring out what are the capital needs, and it's an ongoing process, Jim. So
yeah, I realize
and we
that.
have 2 years into it, and I'm really proud as to how of the budgets that we've come up with for capital, and and very solid plans for 5, 10, and 15 years are in development, where we do not have super highs and super lows, that we're making a much more concerted effort to fund it appropriately. And it sounds like, oh, it went up 18%. Well, it's only, you're going from $400,000 to $600,000. The percentages are huge, but it's not big dollars, but it's important dollars. It's needed dollars. And I think we've done a great job, and the board to be commended in the plan that they've come up with. And last year, we did not touch the capital budget when they came up with it, and we didn't do it either this year.
No, I think it's a great idea to have the capital budget, and I'm all for that. It's just, I see the way this is written, it looks like it's going to be a big hit in the next 5 years. And if we could slow that down a little bit and maybe pick out, certain elements out of each group to do and not just hit them all.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, I mean, in the fall, this whole process to be looking at the definitive budget in the capital for next fiscal year is going to be talked about, and that 5, 10-year, 20-year plan is going to be talked about as well, and those are great meetings for you to go to.
Let me know when they are.
Keep an eye on the agendas. The Ann has another question.
And Norwalk with a huge question. Did you mention that some of the vehicles have to be replaced because the floorboards are wearing out?
Yeah, one of the vehicles we replaced in last year's budget had a sign, a metal sign on the floorboard, so you wouldn't have water and snow coming up through it.
Why don't you get some heavy-duty floor mats so they don't wear out? And then you wouldn't have to do that.
Sorry, we opted to update that truck. So
If the rest of it needs doing, but if you could save the floorboards and not have to get a new truck.
that wasn't the only thing wrong with it.
All
Just an
right.
example.
Okay, so you extended its life by putting patches on somehow.
We actually, no, that truck, we retired and got a new truck to replace it.
Okay, but if you're wearing out the floorboards from the top, put floor mats in.
All right, thank you.
Please.
I'll, next time.
Thank you.
We'll expect to have to see you at those meetings too, Ann. Joe? And if you have a question on either budget, just, raise your hand as soon as the next person's done and we'll call you up. Go ahead, Joe.
Joe Casada, Wyasett Road. Can you explain to me the general maintenance, how this is going to work between the school, emergency services center?
Make sure you use the mic because.
Sorry, how this general maintenance is going to work now between the school, emergency service center, all the buildings? I know we've had history about trying to get stuff fixed at the emergency service center. It seems always be falling by the wayside. So now we're putting on another burden on the town to take care of the school stuff. How's this going to work as far as the HVAC dies at the school, HVAC dies at the emergency service center, there's something at the town hall? Are we hiring somebody to take care of this? Is this someone from the?
It actually depends on the project, Joe. So once we're alerted at the town from Randy, who's the superintendent of buildings at the school, he alerts us to an issue. He gets a hold of Alan Ladd, the foreman of the highway department. Alan then notifies myself. Sometimes we get the board of selectmen involved, depending on what the project is, determine how much it's going to cost, where the quotes are coming from, and what it'll take to fix it. If it's something that's part of the building itself, just like you were a tenant and you were renting the building, something that we have to take care of as a landlord. So those are the things that the town will handle. If it's things that the tenant can handle, smaller things like changing filters, light bulbs, fixing drips and faucets, they'll handle that themselves.
Well, we're talking about general maintenance. I'm specifically talking about the emergency service center because now we've been there a while now. Things are starting to break and need to get painted and need to get fixed. And I just don't know if there's a process that the board set up, like, okay, you guys need to fill out this paperwork, submit it in, we need to address it and move it on. Or if there's an emergency, like with us, in the middle of the night, the door's not closing. Okay, well, how are we gonna get this done? There's gotta be a process in place to have this general maintenance between the school, us, and everything else that needs to get fixed here. It needs to be prioritized somehow.
So
as far as-
the new school process is going to be very similar to the ECS process where Charlie, Dan, somebody calls Alan Ladd, says this isn't working. Alan goes down, we assess what it has to be done to fix it, and we fix it.
Okay, I think I'm trying to say is that it needs to be documented somewhere, so if something comes up later on, we come back as a or you come back as a taxpayer, say, hey, why was it not this fixed? Well, we document and say, hey, you need to fix this because this could become an issue later on. To say it, word of mouth is not good, or emails, it should be some kind of documented form, so A, you can track it financially in what the project's done, and if the taxpayer asks a question like me and say, hey, why didn't you address this originally when they sent it to you? Now it's costing double to fix.
We will be
So-
documenting all the repairs.
But that's my point. I just don't know how it's supposed to all shake out as far as, because you know what happens. We all know what happens. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Sam Emmert, 85 Rocky Hollow Road. I have a question about the $100,000 line item that the town budget is absorbing from the school. $100,000 seems arbitrary, seems like a number that they.
It does, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yes. And
So it wasn't. So we looked at their expenses from last year from their maintenance expenses.
Mhm.
And if we wanted to divide it in half, we would come with $103,000. So yes, we did round it down to 100 because it's the first year we're doing this. We don't know if it's 125 or 75. But since the documentation we had from the previous year was the things that we would cover, they had a whole list of all the maintenance issues they had. We went through it with our highway fund. We highlighted everything we thought the town should have been responsible for, that the school paid for. Then there was things that we weren't responsible for, like if they were putting wood chips on the playgrounds and things like that. Supplies that we're not responsible for. So when we came up with it, we came up with about 103,000 that the town would have been responsible for if we had this plan last year. We just rounded it to 100 because not knowing the exact number.
Okay. And I appreciate the transparency this year and being able to see those numbers and see how they correlate. My concern is that next year and the year after and the year after, these budgets are going to become very difficult to see because next year it won't be $100,000. It will be a different number because you'll have a better idea of what these expenses will be. And we can expect it to increase. We can expect it to shift more from the school and on to the town. My concern is that next year we're not going to be talking about it anymore because it's already a plan in place. And that's just going to be the new number. We're not going to be looking at, we consider cost per student. I'm going to guess that the cost per student, that $100,000 this year was not factored into cost of educating the students. That's my concern is that the taxpayer is not going to be able to see the true costs to educate the students if we shift these expenses off of the school properties onto the town's expense. That's my concern. And so my question is there an ongoing plan to make it just as visible next year when next year's budget?
So it should be more visible next year, because if we, as Joe just mentioned, if we document all the repairs and we work with the Board of Education and with the superintendent, not the superintendent, but what's his title? Facility director, there'll be more transparency because we'll know exactly what we fixed. And it may be 125 next year, it could be 75.
Sure.
But let's say it's 125, then next year, instead of adding 100,000 to the budget, we're adding 25, because that would be the increase. But I have to support that with backup. I can't just say, well, now we think it's gonna be 125. It's why are we coming to that number? And I just told you how we came up to the 100.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, the whole idea is
I
transparency.
mean, as far as a taxpayer, it really makes no difference with where the number lands, either it's on the school or if it's on the town. My point is that it would be much easier for a taxpayer to see that cost reflected from the school budget. So we actually know this is what we're spending. It just becomes blurry, I guess. That's my concern.
So, one quick thing, Seth. So, I like to take care of my yard. I don't trust someone else taking care of it. So what I'm saying, Mr. Emmett, is if these are our buildings and we're the ones that are taking care of it, we know how often they have to be fixed and what we're doing. So I have very much confidence in our foreman and our highway department to do these repairs in a timely fashion. And if we let these don't linger, we do get to them right away, it's going to extend the longevity of the building.
I think you made an excellent point when you were saying it doesn't really matter to the taxpayer whether it's on the school budget or the town budget, because it's still that $100,000 that we just shifted from one place to another. And so I don't think that either Bob or I are trying to say that there's some great financial benefit to the taxpayer. We just wanted to show you that it came out of my budget and into Bob's budget, and that was visible. You'll always be able to see that line in both of our budgets. And so you'll be able to see year over year if you want to, but certainly in next year's budget presentation, you'll be able to see the fiscal year 26, the one that we're budgeting for now, what that number was, what our actual was, because you could see that in our budget now, and then what we're budgeting for fiscal year 27. So you will be able to continue to track it if you want to, and you'd rather track it in the school budget. Understood. We just really felt like it wasn't working this way, and that because it's a town building, and this was a conversation that wasn't just had by the school, right? So this was a big conversation with the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and then ultimately the Capital Committee that was put together to determine a standardization of how we're going to maintain buildings in the town. And since the school is a town building, the Capital Committee put together a really comprehensive plan documenting what should be maintained by the school and what should be maintained by the town. I think it's probably one of the most transparent processes that I've ever been involved in terms of school town budgeting. And I don't see a reason why we would stop talking about it, but certainly if you wanted to track year over year, you'll be able to do that. And you would be able to compare what happens in the school budget. And if that goes up or goes down as it compares to the town budget, because those lines will remain the same.
While you're, where are you? Anyway, while you're planning that, should you also plan for the big repairs like the roof and the furnaces and things like that, the way you're doing with your capital budget?
Yes, they would be in they would be in the school's capital budget. So if we know there has to be a roof repair or a new boiler or something major, they would be in the capital budget. Correct.
Can you start putting money into a fund a little bit at a year instead of one big thing in 1 year?
Sometimes it's tough sometimes you can't predict when a
Okay.
boiler is going to go or a roof's going to leak. So,
But you know, a boiler should last 30 years, 20 years, something, and a roof should last however many.
we could, but if we did that throughout the entire town, and I'd be putting money away for every truck and every fire truck and every ambulance and every furnace and every roof. Pretty soon we're putting all this money away and the taxpayer saying, okay, you're putting all my money away for these things that may happen. And
sometimes they will. Okay.
Sometimes it will, but I would feel a little guilty about asking people for money for things that haven't happened yet. And we do have, as the Board of Finance Chair, Michael, talked about this undesignated rainy day fund. That's what that's there for. So if we would have had the kind of money in 2010 that we have now in that fund, we wouldn't have waited 3 years for that bridge to be fixed in front of the brewery.
I just thought there'd be an easy way to do it.
No, well, the easy way is for me to go to them and plead my case and they give me an appropriation. That's the easy way to do it. And then if it's over 20,000, I have to go to a town meeting and they have to agree with the appropriation.
Okay. See you there.
We have great systems in place for this stuff.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ann.
Oops.
Michael Caspo, as a previous or past permissible building committee member, probably 20 years. Nick can attest to this. When the committee was created, we had a budget of $50,000. And then after a few years, it increased to $75,000. And over the years that we were on it, we did a lot of repairs that didn't necessarily come out of the school maintenance budget. It's similar to what the plan is now. And I think the committee hasn't been in existence for many years now. So a budget of $100,000 to have somewhere to do maintenance of the buildings, I think is a very good thing to have.
All right, other than this, leave it right now does anyone have any more questions about the Board of Education budget or the general government budget? All right, before we go on, I just want to kind of put the slide up for the mill rate scenario. And that should be shared, right? Okay. So this is a spreadsheet we've been using for years. And the great thing about this spreadsheet, I mean, you have on the left side, you have your grand list, you have a mill rate, which is our present mill rate. And it shows you what revenue we have available to us from the grant, from the taxes that we pay for our real estate and our private property at a 98.5 collection rate. That's 18,919,657. Then you add in additional taxes that are in the budget on the revenue side for additional taxes, short-term investments, intergovernmental money that comes in, license fees and charges, and other revenue. The total revenue we have at 28.88 mils that should be 20. So it should be 0.02888. Yes. Okay. Well, so with the budgets right now at a 4% increase for the education budget, 3.77% increase for the government over operating budget, the debt at 0% and the capital the 18.12%, overall 4.09%. You see, we're in the hole 308,121. Are the numbers correct? She might open the wrong one. So is that right now? Yes, it does.
What's your budget? 617,519. No, that's wrong. That's my.
Yeah,
16,056.
yeah. What's the problem?
I'm gonna fill it up, but I think it does.
This is unnecessary. All right, sorry about the technical difficulties. So basically, and this is the reason why you don't consider, what the undesignated fund overage is at the beginning of this, because at this point, I think it's important for everyone in the audience and everyone that's online to know that, the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education, they get together early on, January, February, and determine as best they can using what, year over year information to come up with a budget. And then they revise that budget. And then they come to us and they present us with that budget, and we tell them, you need to keep working on the budget. And so at 4% for the Board of Education, and the reason why we have these hearings is to find out what, and I'm going on what they presented at the time they were presenting, is that this is the budget we think that's going to fully fund our programs and give our children the best opportunities. And we had to tell them no. The town is not going to be able to afford that. And we gave both the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen a directive to come back with budgets at 4% increases only. And, and we know where from their presentations, what did we lose? The Board of Education is saying that they have 1.1, what's called FTE. It's a full-time equivalent of a staffing cut, which means that, for the first time in a long time, I've been on this board since 2017, we've never lost staff in the Board of Education. So that's where we are tonight. We're at a 4% increase over last year for the Board of Education. The Board of Selectmen, we lost the giving closet is one, that number had to be cut. There were other cuts that were made to the Board of Selectmen budget to get them to the 3.77. And even with those budgets, we are in the red, 294, 547. So that's where everyone needs to know. And the only way to make that number change from the red is to take line B3, which is the mill rate, and increase that number. When that number increases, that bottom line number changes. Or you take line C15, which is to or from undesignated fund, and add money in on the revenue side. And that's to Mr. Olson's point, are we going to do that? So before, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I want everyone to know, these boards have done yeoman's work to get us to this point right now. And, do we want to come up here and tell the Board of Education, we want more cuts? Do we want to tell the Board of Selectmen, we want more cuts? You're welcome, please, if that's what you want to see happen, then we want to hear your voices. If you want things added back in, understand, it's just going to add to that underline in the red. And that's fine too. We need to hear your voices to say, where are we going to start with that bottom line number? And then the Board of Finance is going to have to sit here and figure out, what are we going to do to make that less of an impact on all of us? Are we going to use what we have available to us? Or are we going to use that money to, pay debt, and then the mill rate is going to have to go up? But as we get into the comments and what do we want to support or what do we want to detract, this is where we're at a 4% and a 3.77%. And with that, I'll take additional comments on what people would like to see happen with these budgets. Sarah, please. Yes.
Good evening. Sarah Valancourt, 21 Old Colony Road. I am here asking that the Giving Closet budget proposal be added back into the Board of Selectmen budget. I heard and appreciate everything you said and all of the hard work that went into everything that you did to try to come up with a number for the Giving Closet. However, I feel very strongly that 0 was a huge slap in the face to not only myself, but to the townspeople that utilize our closet on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, as well as all the volunteers. I probably have 25 people here tonight supporting the Giving Closet. Excuse me, I'm all kinds of emotions right now. I heard you saying that you needed structure, sustainability, and me to become my own 501c3. If I haven't shown you structure, organization throughout the past 7 years that I've been doing this, I honestly don't know what else I can do for you. I wrote a 5-page letter to all of the boards explaining them exactly what the Giving Closet does from the minute we wake up in the morning until the minute we go to bed. We help and are a lifeline for so many individuals. We not only help them through their lives, but we support the schools. I don't know of many other organizations in town or businesses that provide an opportunity to have community service hours for our students and for our most vulnerable students, those that have disabilities. I open my doors to the Giving Closet to offer that opportunity to anybody. That means that it's again taking my time to go to the Giving Closet and let these kids do their work that they need to do. But this is the foundation of our future. I also, becoming my own 501c3, I will not take any more money away from my family. As most of you can see, the Giving Closet is already doing a huge fundraiser for a family in need. I won't ask other people for money right now to support the Giving Closet. To become their own 501c3. It has been said that our money in the Giving Closet is just a willy-nilly huge account. I also sent a form to all of you showing our deposits and everything that we have in the account. The money that's in there was asked for specific purposes, and we will not use that money unless it is for those purposes mentioned. I would also like to say that I know that we're at a 3.77 for the Board of Selectmen. I don't think that 20 grand is a huge ask in the magnitude of what the Giving Closet and all of their volunteers do, not to mention all of the donors. It keeps being brought up that the tax increase that our amount asked for will impact our taxes in town. If anybody can give me like a real number on what each family would pay for taxes on just the Giving Closet ask, that would be wonderful because I have no idea. I was told that it was peanuts and so that's all I'm going with because I have no actual number. I was very disappointed and hope that a draft 6 of the Board of Selectmen budget comes through with the Giving Closet on one of their line items. I think that there's been a lot of misinformation between all the boards, all the people on the boards and an understanding of exactly what we do, yet nobody has come to me or to any of my volunteers or to the closet or to the schools to see what exactly it is the Giving Closet does. So that was another contention for the 5-page letter that I wrote to everybody. I am usually not a confrontational person. I like to work on the back end. I like to help people in need. I'm like shaking right now because I'm just all kinds of emotions. This is not my thing, talking in public and talking around people. I like to help people, and I just don't understand why we all don't want to help all the citizens in our town. Another thing that keeps getting brought up is that we are only the residents that come to the closet was 43%. The number of residents come to the closet is 63% North Stonington residents out of all the people that shop in our closet, 63. That does not include the students and the kids that come from the schools to the closet when they have an accident throughout the day, or when, I'm just going to leave it at that, or the students that come to school with broken shoes and have no shoes to go home in because they have no other pair of shoes. So the stories are unbelievable. I have a lot of supporters here. Whomever would like to read their letter or speak on my behalf, please do. I have also heard that there have been phone calls, letters, messages about people being against the Giving Closet. So if anybody would like to speak on behalf of that as well, I would love to hear your reasoning and understand exactly why you wouldn't want something like this in our town. It is a huge privilege for a town to be able to provide something like this to not only their citizens, but their surrounding communities as well. We have the PNC in our budget for a hefty $32,500. No, nothing against the PNC. I will support every single foundation that wants to help give back to their communities. I just am not sure why you can't give us a chance. We deserve a chance. It's been 7 years since the Giving Closet has started. My start of community outreach programs has raised over $50,000 from our community members. If that doesn't speak volumes on the amount of need that there is, the amount of people that do want to give, I don't know how else I can explain it to you. So if there's something else in the structure, the sustainability and the organization that I have not been full forth, transparent, and explained to you, please ask me, because I know it. I'll show it to you. You can come and volunteer a day in the closet, whatever it is you need. I don't believe we're going to give a huge tax increase to our town. I think that's false. I think the percentage of people that we help in our town is way higher than anybody believes it to be. I believe the amount of citizens in our town that want to help that grow the Giving Closet shows you the importance of it. I also feel that by becoming my own 501c3, I cannot take more money from my family to help other people anymore. I'm done. I'm drawing the line, and that is why I first came to you to ask for my budget. It took me years. Have we grown? Yes. Are we overwhelmed? Absolutely not. Our volunteer base has grown drastically. Why don't we have more people in our closet every day? Because we can't. We don't have space to have 15 people in certain places. We have 3 key holders, and that's all that the town is giving us. I don't want to ask for more, because then it's too many hands in the kitchen or whatever cooks in the kitchen. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. I do know that there was at the 3.77% for the Board of Selectmen, in one of the last meetings, it was spoke about that to get us up to a 4%, still keeping us where the Board of Finance wants us, that $13,000 could be allocated towards the Giving Closet. Obviously, if it was $13,000, my time commitment for paid hours would fall. I would still obviously continue to volunteer, because that's never going to leave me. And then the 20,000 would offer more hours and an ability for me to be able to give back to my volunteers who drive all over Tarnation to get stuff for us, to help families in need. So with that being said, I'm going to read, I have just a few letters I'm going to read, and then whoever wants to support or not support can please feel free. This letter is from Linda Coates. She says, "Dear members, Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, I've been made aware that Sarah Valancourt, on behalf of the Giving Closet, has asked for funding to support their much utilized space in the former high school. I am writing to ask that you support their request. I'm a retired teacher from our wonderful school system and have been volunteering at the closet for several months. I now have the time to support our families in a different way. I've been amazed and touched by services provided to families in need. We don't have anything like this in our town aside from the wonderful services of Linda Costanza. And I am privileged to be part of this amazing organization. This has been run without any funding by the goodness of Sarah and her team. It has been a real eye-opener for me. I have been acutely unaware of the need within our community and the surrounding area. When there, I help so many families that I know. This is a safe place where they can come without feeling any stigma or embarrassment because they need help. Sarah and her team are so caring, professional, and supportive. They've gotten to know so many families and have built personal relationships with them. Their support for many goes well beyond the walls of the Giving Closet. The personal connections are invaluable. The space is wonderful use of the former school that served our families for so many years and now serves them in a different way. We have 2 small rooms with a lot of creativity and are making it work. I love donating because I know everything is given away and what they do not use supports the Lions Club, another amazing organization. Countless hours are given to make this endeavor work. It's not just being there when the closet opened. It includes sorting through thousands of items for countless hours and then displaying, hanging them. Knowing individual families allows Sarah to set aside items specifically for them when they come in. The project's so much bigger than I think the team ever anticipated. At the holidays, it is an invaluable resource with a toy and a gift drive that lessens some of the burden and cost at the same time. Funding $20,000 will compensate Sarah for some of her time as director, allow her to offer more structured hours, provide the ability to focus on relationships, and buy some new items for families. Thank you for your time and consideration. Giving this amazing resource your support enhances our town, validates their efforts so that it may continue for long term, and says to the families, we care for and support you. Respectfully, Linda Coates. This is a letter from one of the families that we have just recently helped. I did not ask a lot of people that we have helped for a statement because I did not feel that it was necessary for them to air their laundry all over Zoom and in front of the entire town. I have 1 or 2 families that did want to share. Dear Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, I'm writing on behalf of my support for the Giving Closet. I've recently fallen on hard and unhealthy times, and Sarah and the Giving Closet volunteers and organizations have been so helpful. In a few short weeks, not only have they provided my family with hours of their time, clothing, toiletries, and resources, they have hooked me up with Linda Costanza for food, provided necessities from Operation Fresh Start, donated cash from local residents supporting the silent projects, worked with an organization to donate gift cards to celebrate Easter with her 3 children, helped fill out and submit applications to other organizations to help our specific needs, provided us with bread and treats with the weekly donation pickup Sarah's involved with. Without the Giving Closet support and relationships with so many organizations, my family would not be where we are this month. Thank you for your consideration to adding them back into the budget. Please give them a chance. They are not here to take advantage of the town or the townspeople. They are here to help us in any way they can. That was from Ashley Silva, who has 3 children in our school system. This is from our school nurse, Ali Sousa. I'm writing in support of a paid position for Sarah Valancourt, who's generously run the Giving Closet over the last couple of years. I work as a school nurse at the elementary school, and I can attest to her hard work on a daily basis. I have so many families who've been supported by Sarah and her efforts. There have been many days I have a student who is in need of shoes or a change of clothes, and Sarah never hesitates to assist. Sarah has gone above and beyond, not only for our students, but for so many others in our community. I also work at Stonington Institute in North Stonington, where we meet clients at a vulnerable time in their life. I have had to tell clients we do not have extra underwear or clothing some shifts. I decided to reach out to Sarah, and without hesitation, she had boxes for me to bring to the institution. Thousands of items of clothing we donated to Stonington Institution so that these women can have underwear, so that these men can have socks, so that they can have some form of dignity while they are trying to recover from whatever addiction it is that they have. The Giving Closet would not be able to support our community if it were not for Sarah and her countless hours she has dedicated. In my humble opinion, I think offering a pay position to Sarah is pertinent to keep the Giving Closet running at the high capacity it runs at now. I'm going to
So just so everyone in the audience and online, Sarah has provided these letters that she has just read and many, many others to.
Over 20
Yeah,
letters.
to myself and including her own well-written letter that, you know, that talk about what you do and what the Giving Closet does. And I don't think there's anybody on this board, on the Board of Selectmen that don't commend you and the Giving Closet for what you do. And it's completely evident how valuable you are to this community and the communities around this area. And we thank you for what you do.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Mike.
And, you know, the Board of Selectmen were tasked by us to do a certain reduction. And it's not our decision whether or not, you know, at that point, what to do with each light item. And we've been provided with the information from the people that have given your support to decide, and we can decide whether or not we want to put that funding back. So your letters of support and the people that have come to see us tonight does not go unnoticed, and we'll have an opportunity to look at your ask or some form of that. I think it's what I really want to stress is I don't think this is a question of your worth and the value of.
I don't want it to be a question about me.
I don't think it ever.
It's deciding multiple lives, not just my own, but multiple lives that will be.
Understood, but there, you know, and you said PNC and so that's the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, other things that, because we do, there are light items for nonprofits that the town taxpayers give to. I think part of the question is, on an organizational level, 503Cs are nonprofits that are licensed as nonprofits, you know, with the state of Connecticut and the tax and all the tax ramifications there too. I think the boards were perhaps looking for a more solid, separate entity for the Giving Closet, which is typically run, you know, with the Give Back Club, correct?
They are a piece of us, but we support and are supported by over 65 organizations. So no, it was originally started by the Give Back Club, and then I grew it and grew it for the last however many years.
And as far as letters of dissent, I've only received one letter. I have, you know,
I heard there were multiple, so I don't. It's neither here nor there. If it's all anonymity anyway, I don't really. It doesn't no sweat. But as far as
how many people in the audience tonight? I came here specifically to support the Giving Closet. How many people are online that want to throw their hands up and say they came here to support the Giving Closet? Probably numerous. And I don't want.
As far as becoming our own 501c3, we are working just fine under the school. The only reason for me to have broken off was so that I can get paid. I don't understand why it is such a huge contention for us to have done that. And I promised all of you, if we got approved, that would be the first thing I would do. So it is all making no sense. Like when you're looking at it at a bit of a higher level, like the tax increase, the burden for the townspeople, it's 20 grand or it's 13 grand. Like we are talking millions of dollars in these budgets. What we are doing is priceless. Absolutely priceless. And everyone was saying like, oh, you're just throwing me these willy-nilly numbers here and there. Well, what I'm hearing about are these truck repairs are willy-nilly numbers that we're just estimating are going to happen and come through. And it's all making no sense. And then there was a new nonprofit in North Stonington, and they got supported without any structure, stability, or organization. But brand new. I know they've been doing the parades for for years and helping Miss Costanza, but again, a brand new 501c3. So, and I'm not knocking any of these other organizations, like kudos to them, and they're doing fantastic things, the same fantastic things that we're doing. There's just a lot of confusion. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you all for your time. I really, truly hope that any of you come and see our closet, come and visit our store. There's night hours we have, there's morning hours, and there's midday hours. There's no reason why anybody that has a problem with the Giving Closet can't come and see what it is we do. Outside of giving names of the families we serve, I'm 100% transparent with everything we do.
Sarah, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
If a person right now wanted to give money, write a check, how does a check get to the Giving Closet? Who do we write a check to?
You write a check to the Giving Closet.
Like, there is an entity called the Giving Closet.
There-
You have a bank account.
The bank account is with the school.
So who
She
can write a check out?
to the Giving Closet. That is our entity underneath the Wheeler Activity Fund. So we're,
I think this is where a lot of the confusion is, like for me personally. Like,
okay,
I have donated money to you, and I think I sent it to you in your Venmo account or something.
Okay.
So like, as a board sitting here, or as a community member, so I will separate myself from the Board of
Yeah.
Finance. I'm Winona Burdine. I live on Passaic Hill.
okay.
I personally don't understand how the town is supposed to fund the Giving Closet as a taxpayer. I don't understand how my tax dollars are supposed to fund the Giving Closet when it doesn't I know what you do. I
Mhm.
love what you are doing. I'm talking as a community person.
Mhm.
I'm sitting here, forget about that. I don't know how to pay you money. I don't know how the taxpayers are supposed to get you money because the Giving Closet is sitting inside the school across the street in an activity fund, and it doesn't have its own bank account even. So this is help us understand the structure of what this thing is.
I sent the form of our slip to all of you, I believe, with the letter that I sent along. Somebody makes a donation with a check. It's written to the Giving Closet. I fill out a little piece of yellow paper with the activity fund and the Giving Closet name. I take copies of everything. I bring it over to Kathy. She puts it in our account. She gives me an updated account of what money we have in our Giving Closet fund. When I go to buy 18 pairs of sweatpants, we turn in a receipt to Kathy. She takes the receipt, we copy it, and then she reimburses whomever bought the stuff. It's the school, yes.
So, just kind of going with Winona's. So if for your compensation,
Yes.
would that make you an employee of the school? Are they gonna pay like your payroll taxes? Are
No,
they gonna
that's
cut
what-
you a check?
That's what my ask is that once I get a yes on the budget, I will then become my own 501c3B. I spoke with Emily Lewis and she gave me a background on what I need to do. I am 100% ready. We have our board. I have many board members here tonight. We have our mission statement. We have our bylaws. All I need is to get the yes that the money is approved, or I'm not pulling out of being under the school. Essentially, there's really no need for it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Brett.
I know.
I know. So as a member of the Board of Selectmen, as a resident and as a taxpayer, I wrestled with bringing up, and I am sure that you listened to the recordings of our, so it was my initial request that we reduce the amount. I am not going to speak for Bob and Brett, but I know them well enough by now that it was one of the hardest things that we've had to really wrestle and discuss as a board. when Brett, who I know we were kind of fighting about who was going to come up first and try and explain, when Brett then suggested that we remove the entire thing from this budget, knowing, and I just want the audience to understand that at the time when the Board of Finance gave direction, we literally were talking about layoffs and cuts in the Board of Education. So for us, we needed to go back to the drawing board for that sixth iteration of the budget.
So I was told that our budget, the Board of Selectmen budget, doesn't interfere with the Board of Ed budget. And
no, but as you can
Sorry, just
see,
let her- let
everything
her-
rounds up to what we in this room all pay for taxes and mill rate. So when Brett, and I'm not going to steal his thunder, but when Brett said, why don't we remove the entire thing? We were having a larger discussion, which I'm sure you heard, about opportunities in the senior center and changes that might be coming down the pike for them. And that clearly, everything that you had brought forward in letters in your presentation to us asking for the money, clearly the town of North Stonington needs this. And then we started having a larger discussion about what do we do right now. Our town gives in our budget money to the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center because we don't in our town have anything that serves that purpose. You and your board and your volunteers are starting to take over some of the things that our residents are having to go to other towns for. So when we started talking about that larger picture, it was actually Brett's idea, sorry, I'm stealing your thunder, of why don't we pull it out, wait, have her go, and I think that there can be discussion as far as helping you with the funding for applying for your nonprofit status. But why don't we remove it and then have you come to the Board of Selectmen, and it's that easy, with an ask for an appropriation. We then go to the Board of Finance, and out of that undesignated fund that you all heard, we are now over. We are over the amount, and we have a certain percentage that we need to spend. And what a better way than using that money to help fund after you're a nonprofit. So I need everybody in the room to understand, we as a board, whether it's Board of Finance and what they've asked us to do, or the Board of Selectmen, we are not in favor of the giving closet. We are in favor of funding you in a way that makes sense, that is as stable for the town and the taxpayers as possible. And it can be done within the undesignated fund. It is that easy to come in front of the board one day, one night, ask for what you need to ask for, state your case. If it's over a certain amount of money, it will have to go to the Board of Finance and it will have to go to a town meeting. Clearly you have support. This tonight, you guys, is exactly what the budget hearing is for. It's for you all. We have sat for months going back and forth, trying to present you all with the best budget we think we can. It's now up to you to say, you guys cut it too much. We want you to put this back in. Or, you know what? Whether we're $294,000 still in the red and we have to make that up somewhere, no, that's enough. We can't afford to put anything else back in. That's exactly what you're here to do. We read every single letter that comes to us. It affects us. But please don't leave this room thinking we don't support or don't intend on supporting funding the Giving Closet. We actually envision it a much larger piece of social services in the town of North Stonington. All right, sorry, Brett.
Thank you.
So Brett Mastriani, Hangman Hill, Selectman as well. Nicole pretty much said everything I was starting to say. But if you do listen to that meeting, that was the big push for that meeting, is not to not fund you. And as you know, Sarah, I've been a supporter of the Giving Closet. I work with Bob to move that space over for you, to give you more space and things like that. But when it comes to an ask, and Nicole touched on it. We look at everything that's asked in the process. And we do wrestle. You say $20,000 isn't a big ask in our budget, but we spend hours and hours cutting $500 here, $100 here, and we go through it. But to me, the easiest way to make sure that we're managing the town funds correctly is for the appropriation ask once you have the 501(c)(3) status. And that's actually, if you look it up, that's one of it's not a requirement for a town to give, but being registered with I think it's the Department of Consumer Protection is one. And it goes further to say that an organization should be a 501(c) before they even ask for it because of the legalities involved, ethical concerns, and reporting. And it's about the transparency of town funds. So we came to the consensus, and that's why we moved it forward to the Board of Finance, not to say you shouldn't have anything. We believe you should. I think everybody was on board with that. The problem was that at this time, you aren't a registered nonprofit. So once you get that, like was said from Nicole, then come to us for an appropriation. And that process would be, if it's $20,000 or under, it goes through us. We either approve it or deny it. Once we approve it, we send it to the Board of Finance. They approve it or deny it. If they approve it and it's less than $20,000, then that's it. They take it out of the undesignated fund, and that's the process. If it's over $20,000, then it comes to a town meeting just like this. And as long as nobody refers it to a referendum, it's by vote of the town meeting if you get that funding. But anything $20,000 or less, $20,000, no, or less, the Board of Finance is the ultimate decision on that. So nobody said that, and I want to clarify, and Nicole already did, that we never said we shouldn't give you money or anything for it. But in my mind, holding up and basing people's taxes, and I know it might be small peanuts, but it's still, we're pre-taxing people on something we don't know if that organization gets that status. And it's easy enough to get, but why pre-tax the residents until you get that status? Once you get that status, you come to the Board of Selectmen, and that could be a 3-week process or less to get that funding, depending on if it has to go to a town meeting or not. So I just need to be clear that we're very supportive of it, but it's having that entity in place and following the law to make sure that town funds are expended properly. And the new nonprofit that did come to us, they are set up as a nonprofit. That's why it wasn't, we actually reduced their amount to give them something, but that's why it wasn't cut off the table completely, is because they already have their status. So that's all what we're asking for, is to get the status and then come to us, and we're more than willing to work with you and come up with a number and try to pass that along. It's not that and it wasn't meant to be a slap in the face. So I'm sorry if that's how it felt, because really, I'm very supportive of you.
There was a lot of stuff said that I was making no sense on what you were saying about the closet, and then supporting other entities, and then throwing other entities on top of my ask, which I felt was also very unfair. I just feel like there wasn't a lot. It wasn't run very smoothly, and the feedback, I guess, should have been more of a personal conversation between us. Again, only one person has reached out to me on all the boards, and I have reached out, but
well, on our board, I know Bob reached out to you and talked to you about it. So sometimes we let that go. When you send an email to all of us, we don't respond to all or things like that. But you're right, we could have reached out individually. But one thing you need to know too, and it was in your letter, that we started talking about social services as a bigger picture, because yes, you brought up some issues, and we've known issues through years, and working with Linda and others throughout the community. It is our job as the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance too, to look at the bigger picture. So when something comes up, it seems personal to you that, hey, we're looking at everything else now because we need to, but that's what we have to do. Our job as the Board of Selectmen is to superintend the needs of the town. So when something comes up, and the timing might look rough to you, that it's right now that we say, hey, let's look at other social services. Let's make sure we're reaching everyone that is needed. So some of the other asks that we got for sexual abuse counsel and things like that, those people work with members, and they're the only ones that work with members of our community that have been affected that way. Even though they're not based in North Stonington, they're the ones that are people reach out to for different circumstances. But when we say
We're getting off path. Let's just phone it back in on the giving closet for one
See,
second.
I'm not getting off path on my comment. What I'm saying is, in your letter, I'm responding to it, is as Board of Selectmen, we look at everything. So if nothing was personal.
I understand that.
And really, when it comes down to it, all we're asking for is to come back to us once you have the status, so then we can be transparent into the 5,000 taxpayers in town that we're following the rules in what's ethical and transparent to the community. That's all we're saying. Nobody said we shouldn't give you any.
So nobody ever told me that it was the law or that it was a rule. It was suggested that I go and become my own entity. I appreciate the suggestions, but if that is truly the law
Well, the
or
law is
the
not
rule,
501(c)(3). The law is registered with Department of Consumer Protections, but it goes further to say, once that, it's very much more transparent and doesn't raise concerns when they're 501(c)(3) because of reporting structures. That's all. And you know what? This is the first time an entity that was not registered reached out to us. So it's a learning curve for all of us as well. Because we've never been approached by an individual, even though you're an entity within the school, that nobody's ever approached us individually for a.
If this is gonna be a separate line item, it must go through town meeting. No
Okay.
ifs and buts. You can add money to the department. You cannot add a line item without a town meeting. And then you get into the issue.
So Nick Mullane just mentioned that if it's a separate line item, that it has to go to a town meeting for a vote, which would be a meeting like this. So especially if it's over 20,000, then and that's what the ask is anyways, that's. where
so
we
the
would
new
end up.
nonprofit that just became a nonprofit is a new line item or no?
It's a line item, but it's within the budget. So it's going to a town meeting, it goes through a hearing, then we have the budget presentation, and then we go to a vote.
So if I were to get the appropriation, it has to go to a town meeting, a town vote, regardless.
A town meeting.
No.
Town meeting, not a referendum. So there's differences between a vote of the public or a town meeting entity like this. So what he's saying, Nick is saying it needs to go to a town meeting like this, and we vote yes or no as a community.
That is only if it's not included as a line item in the budget.
Correct.
There is a line item in the budget for $500.
No, not for this. Nick, can we, if you want to come up and talk after and explain
Okay,
that.
I don't want
it's
to,
a
I don't want to do
process.
this anymore. So I am going to just say thank you very much. If my friends have been waiting to speak on behalf of the Giving Closet, so I'm going to invite Tammy to come up because she has kids. If that's okay, can I invite people up in your meeting, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
yes, you
I'm
may.
so sorry. I
Absolutely.
just can't do this anymore, so. Thank you, Brett. I didn't mean to just.
Okay, so I wrote this after I did.
Can you just speak right into the mic for me, please? Thank you.
I'm Tammy Penrose from Woodman Road, and I wrote this after I got the information that the Giving Closet has lost its funding. So I just want to read my letter and say a few things, and I'm open to ask if anybody wants to ask me any questions. So to my fellow community neighbors, I'm extremely puzzled on why we are not helping this beautiful community outreach program, Giving Closet. They have helped my family in so many ways. I have 7 children, 5 of them living at home, and a grandchild that for every season I'm really trying to get a jump start on clothes. Summer and back to school are so important. Coats, hats, boots have been invaluable. At school, when any kind of accident happens, when someone gets pants or shirts or whatever was needed provided for them from the Giving Closet. If I need simple, basic household items such as toothpaste, toilet paper, toothbrushes, essential things, I know where to go. And Christmas, I cannot even tell you how valuable the giving closet has been to us. Please do not take that away from us. I love the fact that I can go to a group of people who know who I am and ask for help. It is a shame to see a wonderful group of people trying to help our community and our town is not willing to support them. They're even now fighting for this support. They are willing to do this. Let me stress, they are willing to do this. We as a community need to step up and help them however we can. Please do not let this opportunity be missed. This is a need for some of us, and we are talking about building low-income and elderly housings nearby. That need will only intensify the need for this community and a place to go for help. It has been such a blessing to have a helping hand so nearby. Please do not let it go. And I just want to say that I brought 4 of my older kids with me. My oldest, who has autism, has come to the giving closet to serve community hours in the giving closet. My 15-year-old, my 9th grader, she is involved in the Give Back Club that has worked with the giving closet. And my youngest one here, he has gone through clothes like you wouldn't believe. He's outside all the time instead of getting his face in the screen, which I'm so happy for. Riding quads, playing in the dirt. So clothes for him do not last hardly at all. And my grandson, who was 14, but he's got a size 15 foot. Sarah has put aside when stuff like that comes in, she has put aside the clothes, the shoes that he needs, and I'm so thankful for. And then my 2 babies at home, like I say, it is a need for this community. And I'm just so thankful that she is here and willing to do that. And I just want to say thank you to her and thank you for everybody listening to me. And like Sarah said, I do have children, so I'm gonna get them home and in bed. But is there anything that I can answer or anything that?
Thank you very much for.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to hear from people who benefit from the service.
Thank you.
Nick? Just come up to a mic, please.
In regards to the shortfall you're looking for, have you looked at building permits and what's going to come online? And will you take a real hard look at the supplemental in regard to all the sales that are going on now to beat the terror? So maybe you can ask the assessor, hey, is there any more money in what he's told you already as regard, I know they're building some houses and they've got permits for, and will they be coming online? Will you be getting any money out of it? And will the supplement on the automotive and that sort of thing be any higher than what was previously estimated?
I think the supplemental, the tax thing on the vehicles has already changed and the present revenue reflects that change, Nick. But we are going to be reaching out just to the assessor, before Wednesday, just to confirm our tax revenue number, to your point. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Yeah, please. Just come to this other one, huh?
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
I'm new in town and I decided to come listen to this.
And what's your name, ma'am?
Rose Buckingham, Dennison Hill.
Okay.
As far as this living closet, they should go through the proper channel, make a little effort, get their status, because no one mentioned the fact, if you don't have the nonprofit, you have to pay sales tax. And that's what the town taxpayers are gonna have to pay when they buy all these clothes or whatever. If you don't have the nonprofit status, you're gonna have to pay state sales tax on stuff.
No, the giving closet is free.
Yeah, there's no.
How do you get that if you buy something? I mean, if you buy clothes, you just said you're buying If I buy something, I pay the sales tax.
Well, that's not right for you either. Why can't you get that status?
I have a tax exempt form from the school.
For
but I
the
think
closet, you should get that for the closet and it will benefit everybody. Your group, I mean, I don't want to hear a cry and tell a story. Your group,
Ma'am,
and the
just-
town taxpayers going to
ma'am,
benefit by getting that
Rose-
status.
Right, Ro, that's fine. You just gotta,
Oh,
you gotta speak into the mic so that people.
Oh,
online can
okay.
hear
I
you.
just don't understand why they don't make a little effort to get that status. I work for nonprofit groups and we don't get any money except by the volunteers and donations, and we're making out fine. And I don't understand why you wouldn't make a little effort to get the status and go through the proper channels and work it that way. And instead of worrying about working all your hours, get that status, and it's gonna help everybody.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
Hi, Jen Richter, 20 Tom Wheeler. I'm speaking on Sarah and the Giving Closet. I've known Sarah for almost 12 years now. And while she has always given 110% to a variety of different causes and organizations throughout North Stonington, it wasn't until her work at the Giving Closet began that I understood her true passion for helping others. Sarah provides constant support system for North Stonington and the surrounding towns' most vulnerable families while providing comfort in the most darkest times. Through the Giving Closet, Sarah has been able to provide spare clothing for the students in my Westerly Head Start classroom, ensuring all children have extra clean clothing when necessary that is otherwise unable to be provided by their families. The Giving Closet also provided small pillows for every child in our classroom to use during rest time. While these items might be small in size, they are pivotal in assisting to help regulate the social emotional responses of many children who have experienced severe trauma at such a young age. As adults, we really look forward to nap time. It'd be awesome to take a little nap in the middle of the day. For the children in this classroom, it is the most difficult time for them. It is quiet, it is dark, it is calm, and it is peaceful, and it is the time where they reflect on the worst experiences that they have ever seen at such a young age. It seems small, but these pillows are something that brings them comfort. It would be impossible for me to list all the ways that Sarah and the Giving Closet have shown what it means to be a community. I am in awe of the countless volunteer hours, the level of confidentiality that is upheld, and the commitment to helping others that Sarah and the Giving Closet have continued to provide for North Stonington. The Giving Closet is undoubtedly one of North Stonington's biggest accomplishments and something that we should all be proud to support. And I urge you to reconsider and to provide the Giving Closet funds within the budget.
Thank you, Jen. Yes, ma'am, please come up.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Shannon DePerry, and I am the president of Operation Fresh Start. Sarah, Rebecca, Robin, Paulette, and the wonderful volunteers at the Giving Closet give every person that walks through their doors their time, making lasting relationships with our less fortunate members of our community. The Giving Closet has made it their mission to improve our community, giving unconditionally to everyone that walks through the doors the basic needs, clothing, diapers, etc., that they need. But just as important, a place where kindness and personal attention is given to each person in a safe and loving environment. The town of North Stonington is so blessed to have Sarah and the Giving Closet. This is truly community spirit, what community spirit looks like. Please do the right thing and assist the Giving Closet as they can so that they can continue what they do. I heard everything that everybody said tonight, and I understand a lot of it. Some of it is over my head. But I think there's one point that's kind of being missed. You keep saying you want her to get her 501c3. That's what she needs. Then you'll help her. But part of that the money that she is asking for is to help her to get her 501c3. I know what it's like to get a 501c3. It is not cheap. We were blessed when we got our 501c3 that somebody helped us with it, but on my own, I would have never been able to do it. So maybe there's a leap of faith that can be taken. You know who she is. You know how important she is to this community. Maybe you can't help her with the full amount that she is asking for, but aren't there always ways of doing the right thing? Maybe different avenues. So maybe it's helping her, giving her enough so that she can get her 501c3 and then she can come back to you and you can help her in another way. I just believe that this is a great community. I no longer live in North Stonington, but I raised my children in North Stonington, and I wouldn't have raised them anyplace else. This is a great community, and you all have big hearts, but there's nobody in this town that has a bigger heart than Sarah Valancourt. Thank you.
I don't think there's anyone that can disagree with you there. This has been a kind of a learning process for all of us. And I think Sarah included, you know, when you first came to us because every time during budget season, we have people come to present to us, you know, generally the bigger ticket items like the volunteer firemen or the town crew, they'll present to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance together rather than separately, because we'd be in meetings forever. And Sarah came to us because she has this great organization and she's been building it, and she wanted to take it kind of to the next level. And she had a realization that, you know, it's a difficult thing to do as a complete volunteer operation. And someone said, you know, the town gives money to community organizations. And so she came to us and she had a plan and she presented. And I think the difficult part for us as stewards of the town is to say, all right, you're under the umbrella, unlike all these other organizations that get funding from taxpayer dollars. She's under the umbrella of the school through the Give Back Club. And to Winona's point, how do you separate the two, where the Give Back Club is its own sole entity? And I think that's where the friction has been. And I have to reiterate over and over and over again, it's not a question of whether or not we think that the Give Back Club and her own giving is not worthy of support, because it certainly is. It's a question of, you know, how do we provide, you know, use taxpayer dollars to organizations and have the transparency and have, you know, any legalities and does it pass, you know, muster, you know, if someone comes back to us and challenges us on the funding and how it gets there, where does it go? Where's the record keeping? That sort of stuff. Is there tax implications? So there's two separate sides of the coin, and everyone here that's in support of Sarah, I applaud you for doing so. And the letters that we received, there's no question what a value and asset you are to this community, Sarah. We have to take it back and we have to decide, you know, and you've seen the numbers here. And that's the reason why I brought it up is like, it's not that, you know, and to your point, $20,000 or $13,000 is not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. But when you're in the red, our job is to look at everything. And therefore we have to. And the Board of Selectmen, when we're tasking them with coming in with a 4%, or the Board of Education, when they're coming in with 4%, and you're talking about teachers being cut and the giving closet being cut, or whatever, to get to that number, there's a reason why we're getting to that number, and it's clear as day on that spreadsheet. So every penny is taxpayer money, and we have to look at it. So, unless we have any other comments that want to talk about, how do we get Sarah a 501c3? I'm going to close that topic for now, and we do meet on Wednesday, the Board of Finance, to talk about what we've heard here tonight, to see if there's going to be any changes to the present budgets to go forward for a town meeting to be held in a couple of weeks. So everyone's still welcome to attend that meeting as we make those discussions. Any other additional comments from the audience with regard to the budgets? Okay, Jonna?
Hey, Mike,
You
I'm online
recognized?
and I'm trying to find an email for the Board of Finance.
No, yeah, are you muted, Jonna?
No? No? No,
Jonna, can you,
It's the volume on our.
hold on a second, Jonna. Can you try it again?
Testing, can you hear me?
I can
Hello?
barely hear you.
Okay, I'm kind of screaming right now.
Your speaker setting.
What I'm looking for, Mike, is an email to the Board of Finance. There's nothing on the website.
I know that you put your microphone next to the.
Oh, dear God.
Go ahead, John.
Mike, is there an email to the Board of Finance so I can send a letter to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen? I don't see anything online for Board of Finance.
Looking for an email. address
Just,
to
you can send it to me, Jonna. It's M. Anderson at northstoningtonct.gov.
Okay, and everybody gets it. The whole board.
Everyone will get, I will distribute it to the Board of Finance
Okay,
and
cool.
the Board of Selectmen, if just say in your email who you want it to go to.
All righty. Thanks, Mike.
Anyone else online? Raise your hand. Any additional in the audience have any? Brian, please.
Bob, is the upgrade of this equipment in your budget?
Brian, you're recognized.
I think Bob's got it staged.
Brian Rathbun, 263 Grindstone Hill Road. I've been to a few of the meetings. I've been to a few of these meetings and I've been trying to follow it the best I can. When I don't make a meeting, I usually look at them online.
No one's going to accuse you of not being informed, Brian.
Well, I just want, some people don't think I am informed, so.
You are. And I can
Anyways.
show you, anyone here and online, Brian's at almost every meeting. That's why I tease him.
Okay, let's see. First, we'll do the Board of Selectmen's budget. I think they did a great job, by the way. I've heard a lot of your meetings and you let me speak. Didn't stop me at 2 minutes. But there are a couple of things that I'd like to see, and you probably won't hear this too often. I said that a few times this year.
You've surprised us once in a while.
And one thing I would support is on B101 and B102. Second and third selectman budget. First selectman, I keep that one in there. $105 increase in what we pay for two people that spend hours reading materials, going to meetings, traveling here, doing this. And we pay them for a salary, $3,000, no, I'm sorry. It was $3,500 each. Now, an average job is 2,080 hours a year. So you can do the math and divide it out, see how much they make per hour from our town. That really bothers me. I would love to put a lot more money in that as a taxpayer, but I can't. But I would ask the Board of Finance to add at least $2,000 to each one of those lines for our selectmen. Then we can go on to page, see if I got it right. Oh, I just put a star on it because there was no number. Anyways, you can go to the second one would be the B23, the social services. See, it starts on this page though.
Page 4.
Okay, there it is on the top. No, it's in the middle. There it is. Okay. I think I look at social services this way. The donations that are going to be in the budget year after year, especially if there's a line item in there. To me, when I want to give a donation to someone, I will take it out of my pocket and give it. I do not want to have somebody else take my wallet and make the donation. To me, that's wrong. Because I need every single cent I got. I'm on a fixed income. And I know some people say, you know, you got $5? Yeah, but I need it. I get 7 gallons a week if I'm lucky. So I need every penny I get. But I do make donations. I just gave a donation to the Lions Club. I had an extra $10 and my heart was in the right place. So there it went. But that's the way it should be, as far as I'm concerned, for donations. I see another one in there. And I say this every year, B23.13. Nope, 16, I'm sorry, 16. Keeping North Stonington affordable. Every year we give them $1,000. How many years have we done that? Have we done it over 10? That's $10,000. Just like that. Can I get one of these things and put in there? You can give it to the Brian Rathman Fund.
You need a 501c3.
Well, maybe you can help me get it. Okay, you go to, yeah, I see some new ones in here. And I haven't had time to really look them up to see what they do. I'm sure they're very good causes, and some people need those. But I don't think this is the year that our town should be adding anything in the social services, especially where we don't know what the economy is going to do. It's not going to be a pleasant thing in the next couple of years down the road, I don't think. So I say if there's anything to take out of the Board of Selectmen, it'd be take out anything they added new in there. Yeah, let's see, that was that's that one. Yeah, okay. I'll save that to the end. Well, I could say it now because that's on the town's undesignated fund. I understand you got the 17% level, I guess I'll call it.
Ceiling.
Ceiling, that's a good word. And if we're over it, I really don't want to see it used to reduce the mill rate. You can reduce the mill rate by reducing the budget. Because I feel this way, when I get extra money, which is very seldom, I use it to pay down my debt. I think it's very, very important to pay down debt.
Unless you give it to the Lions Club, like you just said. I just wanted to point that out.
I only gave $10. And that's only because I had a problem with my eye.
What, you couldn't see giving more?
No, I stabbed my eye with a knife when I was a kid and I had a problem. But anyways, that's where I would, and I heard somewhere a 20% talk of a ceiling, maybe. But that, I know that's something different that the Board of Finance has got to talk with later, but as far as I'm concerned, use it to pay down our debt. I think it'll help our town more than if the budget can be lowered. There's a debt. I got rid of that one. All right. And that's it for the Board of Finance. But now on to the Board of Education. All right, well, one thing that bothers me with the Board of Education is the tuition that they receive. Now, I keep hearing we're a great school, and I believe we are. And should we get top dollar for having students come here? That's the way I feel. If they want to come to a school, have the kids come to a school of ours that's making, we just saw on the charts, high on their grade, high on their math, high on this, high on that, then they should pay. Suppose you want to go to UConn, you're going to get a real low rate. I doubt it very much. So why are we selling ourselves short?
Brian, that's a good point, and I think that's something the Board of Education looks at, and they've looked at it from the beginning. They have price increases every year built into their contracts, but they're good, that's valid points. But they also have to compete with the other schools that have school of choice.
Well, I don't, if the average was what, 23,000, 23,000, the state average, at least get that. You know, I mean, like you say, that's a Board of Ed, right here, and they can hear what I'm saying. I keep hearing about the pushing the technology stuff. I'm not really a technology person, you know, when I get online and I raise my hand and it doesn't, my voice don't come through, so I'm screwed at that point. But the technology, I mean, I see kids walking around looking at their phones. They're not looking at the other people. They're not talking to their parents. Technology that I hear, there was one meeting I listened to and it said, I think it was from 5th to 12th grade. That's 8 years. So does that mean we're going to have to buy the computer? I'm not sure if it's a computer or Chromebooks that are every 4 years. That means I got to buy each kid 2. Well, how about we go back? And this is just a suggestion. I mean, I don't think you got a real solid plan for me to vote yes for that Board of Ed budget. I hear from 5 to 8 or 5 to 12, 8 years. I buy for 9 to 12. I got to buy them a computer and Chromebooks, and they take it with them. Well, can't you take them and use them for the younger grade? You know, I mean, then maybe I can save some money. I won't have to buy from 5 to 8. I don't think that technology plan is really thought out yet. And until it's too many questions for me. I mean, I will ask more, but I'm not going to do them tonight. But anyways, that's what I'm thinking about the technology part. I think one of the biggest things I want to see in our schools is teach students how to use their computer, the one that's up here, the one that makes computers, the one that makes them think, the one that will make them ask a question. Not just, oh, this is what this does, I can do this, I can send this over here. But what happens when all that disappears? If there's a war, the first thing they're going to do is take out those satellites. You ain't going to have no computer. You're going to have to think, how am I going to get through this? Then we'll come back now. The school's undesignated fund. Now, I understand you got it. I understand you use it. But when I listen to a couple of meetings here, where I put that page right here. Last one, Brian, right here. It just, it's 2%, is that right? The 2%, you can't have over 2% a year into it? Can't, so, and that's each year. So you put 2% in the first year. How about the next year? Can you put another 2%?
Yes.
So you can keep adding and adding and adding.
Yes.
That's my taxpayer dollars.
It's up to 2%. That doesn't mean that they have 2% available to them every year, Brian.
So I'm paying 2% over on my taxes just for that undesignated fund, besides the one we got for the town. No? That's not how it works?
No.
I'm just wondering how, it's like, well, when it started out here, it was $251,000.
Brian, the thing, the part of the, they started that.
Right after
It's
COVID,
a non-lapsing account. It means, and the statute said that they were able to keep up to 2% of their total expenditures if they had that money available to them at the end of the year, rather than giving it back to the town. It's to avoid last minute spending when they don't really have a plan. So they had that money available to them. So if they had to buy something education related, it has to be education related. The next fall, they could wait to the next fall to do it. And what happened was during COVID, there was all kinds of extra money that came into the school systems to help get us through that pandemic. And it made that non-lapsing account a lot higher than it probably would have been. And for the last couple of years now that they're not getting that COVID money, the money that's kept in there is at a much more reasonable rate of, $10,000 or $15,000. It's not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they have used that, let's call it a windfall, the COVID windfall, to fund a lot of things that otherwise would have had to have been paid out in their budget. So it's been an extraordinary tool to help us fund things in education that otherwise would not have been paid, would have been paid for by taxpayers. So right now they had said they had a unencumbered amount of $190,000 in there, but 150 of it's being spent on projects this year that otherwise would have had to been paid for in their budget.
It's still tax money.
It's money that by statute, they're allowed to take.
Connecticut or
Connecticut.
Oh, I can't do much with Connecticut.
No.
You know that.
Yep.
I still think there's I know in COVID, they had those extra, the state paid for 2 years, I think it was, for extra. I don't know, I forget what they were, really. I'm not sure what position it was. But it was supposed to be for every 250 students, you had to have one of those. I don't think it was a psychologist, I'm not sure. Might have been. But anyways, state paid for it for 2 years. I remember standing here and saying, oh, okay. So they paid for it for 2 years. And I'm gonna watch it. Because I know you're gonna try to keep them in there, and they did. I don't think, it's not my responsibility to pay for that. I don't believe. That's a parent's responsibility. And so anyways, that's why I say, I think the school budget could go back. Board of Education, I think, should go back, it should ask them to reduce it a little more to help toward that big number. And like I say, don't use our undesignated fund to do the like if the mill rate is higher. It just encourages next year, okay, we'll just do it again next year and we'll just tax them all. You know, I mean, there's no incentive to take the stuff out of the budget.
Well, and I encourage you to come back on Wednesday, you know, we're now in 3.5 hours into this meeting, and I wanted to give you time, Brian, because I tease you all the time and throw you down with 2 minutes, and we had a lot of time given to other topics, and so I'm not here to tell you not to, that I'm cutting you off in time, but
No,
that's a
understand.
point that we can talk about on Wednesday. And it's obviously going to be a debate. And that's why I tried to make the point that we were talking about what are the expenditure budgets going to be before we ever even consider, are there other revenue sources that we can to mitigate a potential mill rate increase once these expenditure budgets are determined. All right, so we didn't even get into it. And that's probably because Gary and Nino shut me down early on in the process of talking about the excess. And to his credit, rightfully so, that we are trying to bring fiscally sound expenditure budgets to the people, to the taxpayers, and then, you know, allow us as the fiscal controlling board decide how we're going to use our policy in the most appropriate fashion. But your point's well taken. But if you have, unless you have additional items you want to see cut or amounts you want to see cut, we're going to cut off the questioning for now.
I'll see you on Wednesday.
All right, we'll see you on Wednesday.
Good Lord willing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Stay on this side of the grass, Brian. Any other comments from the audience? Yep, come on up. Rockville Road.
I turned it off. Sam Member, 85 Rocky Hollow Road. First of all, I just want to thank all of you, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen. Appreciate your efforts. I know it's not easy, and I appreciate this respectful dialogue back and forth with the public. I did write a letter to the Board of Finance, and instead of sending it, I just figured it'd be a good opportunity to read it. It's short and hopefully put to the point. As a longtime property owner, parent, and grandparent in North Stonington, I'm writing to express my growing concern regarding the rising property taxes and the financial strain they place on current and prospective residents, particularly among young families trying to establish roots in North Stonington. In the context of persistent inflation and limited housing inventory, these proposed tax increases make home ownership even more difficult. And I fear that if this trend continues, North Stonington will become yet another town where only the well-established or very wealthy can afford to live, much like Old Lyme has become. This shift is troubling for the future of North Stonington. My primary concern lies with our government school system, which I believe has not been appropriately scaled to reflect the realities of North Stonington, a small rural population. We've seen stagnation in both population and school enrollment for years, yet the school system continues to expand in cost and infrastructure. This trajectory is not sustainable. Additionally, I'm concerned about the level of technology being relied upon in our schools. I know innovation has its place, but I question the necessity and effectiveness of some of this technology in the classroom, especially when weighed against the significant cost. We need to ask whether these tools are really and truly enhancing student outcomes or simply adding to an already bloated budget. Families today have more choices than ever before considering education, home education, private educational cooperatives, which offer increasingly attractive alternatives due to their flexibility, their efficiency, and their effectiveness. It's time to recognize this shift and begin the difficult and necessary work to right-size our public school system and the budget. We must prioritize making North Stonington a place where families of all ages and incomes have the opportunity to thrive. I urge you to consider how we might restructure and reduce the scale of our public school operations to make our town more affordable and our future more secure. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I mean, I think a lot of us who grew up before computers were even a thing. I mean, my first word processor was in college, and it was this big. I'm not going there. The technology is a little unfathomable. So your points are well taken, and I'll see you at the next Board of Education meeting. But any other questions, any other concerns, any other comments?
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion to adjourn? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?